My entitled coworker tries to get me in trouble, all because I have my phone out while on the job. So I decided to get some petty revenge by literally ruining his weekend plans in quite possibly the most satisfying way possible. Here's what happened. Okay, so I used to work for an armored car company. Now, this is something I did for a few years when I was in university and waiting for a position in what would be my future career. It was good money and lots of people did it as their full-time jobs, but I wanted more out of life than a mindless job. Because I was classified as part-time, I did not have a set shift. I mostly covered for people when they were sick, took vacation, worked unscheduled shifts, or worked shifts created specifically for part-timers. All in all, I was working full-time hours almost every week. Most of the full-timers loved working with me. The way the company worked is that you were set up for a 13-hour shift. However, if you managed to complete your run in less than that, you would still get paid the full shift. I was young, I moved fast, and I didn't care about breaks, even if it meant that I could get paid for 3 or 4 hours to sit at home instead of working. So whenever I took over for someone older who was just on autopilot, I could get their coworker home in a fraction of the time. Now, one of the full-time workers, a real Karen, who we will call Kyle for the sake of the story, was just the worst. For some reason, he took it upon himself to tattle on people for anything that he didn't like. If someone weren't wearing their collared shirt under their sweater, he would run and tell management. And as an FYI, working in the summer heat in a literal metal box, wearing a bulletproof vest makes you want to shed layers. Also, if someone was wearing black instead of blue pants, he would tell management. If someone was wearing a company hat that has the company logo but is not our official uniform, he would also tell management. So basically, no one in the company liked Kyle. Well, one week, Kyle's coworker was taking vacation, and my boss scheduled me to replace him. The run is pretty easy. It's a commercial day shift, so 90% of the stops are retail stores with less than a few $100 in cash. Because of the amount of money, no one has ever had a problem with one person jumping out and running in, grabbing the money and coming back, while the second person, usually the driver, stays with the truck. In this shift, I was the driver, so that's what I did. When Kyle was in the store, I would just navigate my phone, look at the people in the area, make sure there were no threats and that I wasn't parked in anyone's way, but mostly it was just wasting time. Well, on one stop, Kyle came back and I was just finishing up writing an email, and apparently Kyle wasn't too happy with me taking a few extra seconds to start going. And unbeknownst to me, he took a picture of me behind the wheel on my phone, and I had no idea until the next shift came around the next day, where management came to talk to me about my texting and driving. I then told them that I had no idea what they were talking about, but my manager said that they had proof I was doing it, and if I did it again, I would be written up. I went to talk to another coworker who is also the union representative to figure out what in the world is going on, and he told me that Kyle took a picture of me yesterday and complained that I was doing it. When I heard this, I was so pissed off, and it's here that I decided to get some petty revenge. My shifts with Kyle were for 3 days at 13-hour shifts, namely Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Well, today was now Thursday, our last shift of this run, and this shift was not retail pickups. It was the run that takes all of the money collected from the previous week and brings it to our provincial depot about 400 kilometers away. The entire run has only about 30 minutes of work and about 9 hours of driving. If you did the math, this is one of those runs where if you get it done quickly and if traffic is on your side, you can get paid for a lot of unworked time. It was also the last shift of the week, which meant a long, gorgeous weekend in the middle of summer as soon as we were done. But with that in mind, I was going to make sure that this shift lasted as long as possible. If he didn't want me to break any rules, then I would make sure that I happily obliged. I drove exactly the speed limit the entire way. I even stopped for a 1-hour lunch break, which is given to us, but I had not witnessed anyone take it in the years I'd been here because of the rules that we had about pay. In fact, we were so behind, we reached the major city our depot was located in literally right at rush hour, which is something our early start time was designed to prevent. All in all, what should have taken about 9 hours to do ended up taking 14 hours, an extra 5 hours where he just had to sit there and watch me in silence. To make things sweeter, a few times during the shift, he even had to call his wife and let her know that he wouldn't be home early enough to go to the cottage and that they would have to leave the next day instead. I heard from other coworkers how furious he was and how I had ruined his plans for the weekend. But you know what? All I could do was smile because this guy was a jerk and he absolutely deserved it. Oh, I love this story so much because I hate working with people like Kyle. They nitpick everything you do, they're always trying to get you in trouble, and at the drop of a hat, they would betray your trust immediately. Seriously, like anybody who has ever worked a job would see your coworker on their phone and not think anything of it. But with people like Kyle, and trust me, there's a lot of them, they just can't stand the fact that someone else is not doing exactly what they feel they need to do. And instead of just leaving them alone, they make it their personal goal to get them in trouble. So truly, I love love the way that you got this revenge, because this guy absolutely had it coming. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My fiance and I moved to a certain race-dominated town, and now he's acting odd, almost as if he's ashamed that I'm black. And at this point, I'm kind of convinced that he might be cheating on me, and I'm left wondering what happened and what I should be doing. Here's what happened. Okay, so my fiance and I moved here 3 weeks ago for his new job, and I am so proud of him for this. I helped him during the interview process. I shaved his beard, I lined it up, I gave him certain things I used when I worked in an office, I picked out his clothing, etc. And we were excited about the opportunity. Although I'd been 2 hours from my family and friends, we thought it would be a great start. Plus, the pay is amazing. Obviously, my mother had some issues with it, but still wished us the best. Meanwhile, my son's father went insane, but I said I would gladly meet him somewhere closer for pickup and drop-offs, and for reference, I have sole custody, so I double-checked and I was allowed to change schools and move our son. He had notice of it, but only got mad when I turned down his proposal to date again. He thought my fiance getting a new job far away somehow meant that I would go back to him. You know, his cheating, narcissistic self. Now, here's where the real issue comes into play. I'm Black Caribbean and my fiance is white Canadian, and this new city is primarily white. I've gotten way more stares here in the last 3 weeks than I have my entire life. For example, I was driving to pick up my son from school, and this lady almost crashed her car, breaking her neck staring at me. This other gentleman in his car beside me at a red light, again, kept staring at me. Just today, I had an older man I saw sitting on his porch leave his porch to walk 4 houses down where I park my car, just to walk next to my car and peep inside. Whether my fiance wants to admit it or not, I'm being stared at like I'm some kind of new species of human. I started to notice when my fiance and I go grocery shopping, where he would say, let's separate and meet up when it's time to pay. And I thought this was odd, but I just kind of let it go. But you know what? The same thing keeps happening no matter where we go. He would say for us to separate. This also happened again at an antique store, and we would be getting lots of looks and he would literally just disappear. Like I did not even know how long he was gone while I was literally talking to myself before I turned around to see him gone. He claimed he told me he was going to the washroom, but he definitely did not. I know his job is very important in this town, and he did mention everyone at his job is all Caucasians. Not a single one of them are any other race. So now I have this gut feeling that he does not want them to know that I'm black, because he's afraid that they'll think of him differently, and that might be why when we're out that he wants to be apart. I brought this up to him, and he said he just felt that he was being too clingy lately, but yet yesterday we visited old friends and he was all over me like he usually is. I feel like this is a grounds for a breakup because clearly he's uncomfortable about being seen with me in public, which makes me extremely self-conscious and just really sad. I feel pretty much even more alone. What should I do? Before we go any further, the original poster has an update to their situation. Here's what they had to say. Okay, I'm gonna try and make this short. I spoke to him again about how I'm feeling, and he kind of just brushed it off. Then I said that it's best that my son and I leave so that he won't have to worry about being embarrassed by us. He then came home from work and started apologizing and crying, saying that he can see why I thought that, but it was far from the truth. He said he was just stressed with work and wasn't thinking. He promised that he'll take me out this weekend and treat me like he always does. Now, I wanted to believe him, but something was off. He left and came back home after work with some flowers and wine, but then immediately started an argument and shouted. And you know what? Here's what I just realized last night. Last week, we went to the gym and he wanted to schedule the trainer for yesterday at 6:00 p.m., which I thought was odd since that's our usual dinner time, but I just thought to myself, whatever, it's just one missed dinner. But then I told him my trainer emailed me and wanted to combine our training and that he'll email me to let me know how my fiance's training went. Well, when I told my fiance this, he immediately said, maybe it's best he reschedule for Saturday so we can all just meet. Now, last night, he weirdly started the argument at 5:54 p.m. and he claimed he needed to go to the gym to calm down. But literally, he put on his favorite shirt, his favorite date shoes, and his fancy watch. He then stormed out of the door and just left. He then started messaging me and I said I thought it was odd that he got dressed up to go to the gym. Well, within 5 minutes, he came back saying he was just going to go to the pub close by and started talking normally, expressing how much he loves me. Thinking back, I did notice when it was dinner time on the weekdays, he wouldn't finish his dinner or said he wasn't hungry, but on weekends, he can eat 3 meals a day. He went from saying how excited he was for me to visit his work to saying that it'll be best if I come home when he's more set up. I also noticed that he would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning rather than at 8 o'clock in the morning on weekdays. I thought maybe he was just stressed out, but last night, the fact that he started an argument dressed up and left around the exact same time he scheduled his gym training, to me just seems a bit fishy. I'm starting to believe that maybe he's having an affair, and somehow he's embarrassed for her to find out that I'm black. Everyone at his work knows that he's engaged, and the man who gave him his position is his friend of 20 years. So I don't think he's hiding he's in a relationship at work. But right now, I honestly don't even know. Can someone cheat with someone in just 3 weeks? Because right now, I seriously feel like I'm losing everything. Oh man, first off, I just want to say this is so messed up because you do not deserve this. You literally moved there to try and make sure that your fiance had a good place to work, and you gave him so much of your time and energy to try and be a supportive partner and be there for him. So the fact that he's now seemingly turning his back on you, in my opinion, is so awful. That really hurts, and I'm so sorry that happened. Like, you just don't deserve that in the slightest. Because you are 100% correct. It really seems like he's embarrassed to be around you, and that is not fair for you at all. So overall, I hope this works out in some way in your favor, because from the sounds of it, it kind of seems like he might be cheating. And that, in my opinion, is not okay. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own stories. My friends wouldn't give me a definitive answer about my birthday party, so I decided to cancel it, as I didn't want to embarrass myself with no one showing up. But now it's making me question if I'm the jerk in this situation, or if I was correct for canceling. Here's what happened. Okay, so my birthday was a couple of weeks ago, and I decided to throw 2 parties since I have 2 groups of friends who don't really mix that well. I had one party with friend group A on the weekend of my birthday, and planned one for the week after with friend group B. When I messaged friend group A, asking if people were free, they all replied within a couple of days, saying that they could come and how excited they were. However, when I asked group B about 3 weeks in advance of the party, most people took a week to reply, with me chasing them about it. And even after that, the majority replied by saying, I can probably come, and no one would actually give me a straight answer. Now, as a side note, I've had some problems with this group of friends leaving me out quite a few times before, whether that's going to parties, going to the movies, or going shopping, etc. And this is all without asking if I would come along first. And this is despite the fact that I spend most of my time with this group. Even when it was 3 days until the party, when I asked people in person, everyone still just said, well, probably I might show up. So because of that, I just ended up canceling the party because I was worried that people might not turn up on the day and just come up with some lame excuse by saying like, oh, I felt sick or something like that. I didn't want to risk the embarrassment of anyone finding out that no one came on that day, but I don't know if I'm just overreacting. So please, can anyone tell me if this is normal? Or is it as odd as I think it is that they wouldn't give me a definitive answer? What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, anytime someone gives a soft answer like that, where they're like, oh, I might be there, I probably will be there, that in my opinion means they're not doing it, and that really is the answer that you need to take. It's also worth noting that in my opinion, friend group B really does not sound like your friends. Maybe it sounds like people that you want to be friends with, so you spend a lot of time with them, but as someone who's been in that situation, I can guarantee you that friend group A is probably way better. Because guess what? At least they're showing up to your birthday party. They're willing to be there for your party instead of friend group B who's like, oh, maybe I'll show up. I don't know. It depends. Like, that's lame. If someone has a friend that's having a party, you want to be there, especially for their birthday. Like, come on. So no, you're not the jerk for canceling it because in my opinion, it doesn't sound like anyone from that other group was going to show up. And I completely agree. That would have been devastating and humiliating if nobody showed up. An entitled elderly couple literally just walk around my restaurant trying to choose seats that they want to go to instead of going to the ones that we're trying to assign them, as they made my life a living nightmare. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened last night during a day where I was working a host shift instead of server or expo. You know, you will always get those people that are really picky about their seats, like extremely picky, and they will refuse anything else. I don't get it personally all the time, but that's because I'll sit you just about anywhere. Though I do understand about joint issues, as I've experienced joint problems since I was about 16 years old, so it's not always comfortable depending on where you sit. However, this was just because they were being really picky about their seats. There was no other reason. It starts with an elderly couple. We were busy, the dining room was full, and the high tops in the bar area are filled up thanks to 2 12 tops taking up an entire row, and regular diners taking up the other row. And the bar itself was also full. In the dining room, we have 7 booths and 5 tables, and 2 of those tables fit 6 tops. With both areas full, me and the other host were worried about telling this couple it could be a wait, since we didn't have any extra chairs available for them to sit and wait because of the large parties using the extra chairs. Well, in a stroke of luck, an 8 top in the dining room got up and freed up a table. Specifically, the 6 top table was made to fit 8 by separating a 2 top table from another, which usually is kept together to fit 4, meaning that this was the first available place for them to sit at. I go to take them over to the table while the busser finished cleaning the separated piece off, and the other host helped him put the table back together. The wife then looks at the table and says, "No, I don't like this one. I want a different one. It is too small." I think to myself that maybe it's because the tables had not been put back together just yet that she thought it would be a tiny table for them to work with. So I politely said to her, "Oh, no, we're actually putting these tables back together so you'll have plenty of room. Don't worry." She then shakes her head and says, "No, I don't like it. We want something else." So I think to myself, yikes, we don't have anything else. I then asked them to wait there just for a moment while I checked to see on the other tablet at the host stand if anyone might be checked out and leaving soon. Well, the moment I walked away, the other host hurries over and tells me that they found a seat. Now, where, you might be asking? Well, they picked the 6-top table at the back that just opened as well. The host that told me this, by the way, is new, so she figured it was fine, but I calmly let her know that this isn't alright because we aren't allowed to sit any parties less than 5 at the 6-top tables. Well, now she's worried, anxious about having to break the news to them, but I tell her it's fine, I will handle it. And instead, she just had to check any booths that might be opening up. So I walk over and I go see the couple. The husband has already made himself comfortable, and the wife is sitting too. I then politely tell them, "Hey, I'm sorry, but only parties of 5 or more can sit here. We can't have you sit here, but we will find you a table soon." The husband has said nothing this entire time, but the wife looks at me with annoyance and says, "But we're sat here. We want this table." Now, instead of arguing, I do the best move I can while being polite and keep the customer service going. So I just repeat myself, which is my way of saying, "Okay, cool, that doesn't change anything and I'm not budging, so I'm sorry, but you gotta move." And while they are now in a huff, they reluctantly get up. As I try to tell them that a booth is getting up, they walk right past me and straight to the bar area. I try to follow after them, and I think that they're gonna sit at the tiny 2-top round tables we have, but no, they took one look at them, shook their heads, and just kept moving. They made the effort of squeezing through the 2 12-tops that took up a whole row, which were both birthday parties full of drunk and excited people that don't realize that chairs are for sitting, not for standing around while they crowd the entire walkway. The husband then heads to the very last high top, which has been pushed in position to join the rest of the tables for that party. It was just empty at the moment except for a kids menu because they had a few kids with them. The kids were just not there that second because they went to mess around with a golf arcade game. The husband then just stares at the party, which was multiple people telling him he can't sit there and that they have that table and that the people are in fact using that table. But he just stares at them and says nothing, and instead the wife joins him and settles her stuff down. I then come over and I tell them that they can't sit there and that the party has that table and that a booth did just get up that we were trying to sit them at. The husband finally speaks irate and says to me, "Well, why did you say that?" And it's like, yeah, well, okay, I tried to, but sure, it's my fault, right? They got their booth, but they sat down before it could be wiped off. The busser is then forced to wipe it off with them sitting there, trying not to accidentally spray them while he does it. The cleaning spray diluted with a ton of water doesn't do that much, and it just makes your tongue numb if you digest it a little. But of course, you still don't want to get it on anyone. He finishes wiping it off and it will dry fast. But the wife insists the other hosts take a table napkin and dry it for them. The host tries and it doesn't work, and now they're in a huff about it again. But like, why did you even sit down when you saw the busser was still cleaning the table? If you waited the 1 minute more, the table would have already been dry. I asked them to wait for him to finish cleaning, but they ignored me and sat anyways. This all happened in the span of 7 minutes, and it honestly just felt so weird to me that someone would act so entitled. Oh man, I've worked in customer service like this, specifically in the restaurant industry, and people who act like this drive me insane. They walk around the restaurant like they own the place. They're trying to pick up tables that don't belong to them, even if it means they're disrupting other people. And that is so obnoxious because, of course, just like in this story, they're gonna turn it against you and be like, "Oh, this is your fault for not saying something." And it's like, dude, I tried to talk to you. I literally don't know what else to tell you. I said you shouldn't sit there and you just didn't listen. But somehow, sure, it's my fault, I guess. So yes, I completely understand where the original poster is coming from because that is incredibly annoying. Am I overreacting for not giving my parents over $2,000 out of my student loan refund just so they can pay their taxes? Because right now they're really pissed off at me, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I got into a huge argument with my parents yesterday. For context, I'm a broke college freshman living 5 hours away from home, and they texted me asking for a favor, which was really odd. When we got on a call, my mom said they needed $2,500 by tomorrow just so they could pay their taxes. And mind you, the tomorrow they're referring to would be tax day. They wanted me to give them part of my student loan refund, which I'm saving for next year's apartment and living expenses. I didn't say no immediately. I told them I needed to shower, and then I called my brother of 2 years for advice. He told me to ask reasonable questions, how they would pay me back, and why they couldn't ask someone else, etc. So I called my parents back and I asked them, "Can I ask a few questions?" When I said this, my mom mom let out a sigh but said yes. When I asked about repayment, as I need the full amount back before I move in 4 months, they literally exploded on me. They accused me of not trusting them and made me feel guilty, even though I just wanted to protect myself. They eventually told me that they could pay half next week, then a few hundred for 6 months, but that still wouldn't give me the money back in time. I said I wanted to help, but I couldn't risk not having money for housing. Then my dad brought up how I didn't pay for car insurance in high school. I reminded him that I made a $150 paycheck while they expected me to pay $400 a month, which I clearly could not afford. They eventually agreed I just pay for gas, and I said it wasn't fair to use that against me now. Well, that's when my dad snapped at me, he swore at me repeatedly, and then my mom hung up on me. This happened 15 minutes ago, and honestly, I'm still shaken up. I know I'm not talking to them again until I get an apology, but at this point, I really need some advice because I seriously don't know what to do. Oh man, the way they're acting is so immature, like seriously. There's no reason to freak out and swear at you, especially when you did nothing wrong. You literally are just trying to find answers to whether or not they're gonna pay you back, which by the way, I guarantee you they will never pay you back. They're gonna sit on this and be like, oh, you'll just give us the money, right? And then they'll get the money and be like, oh, what money? We don't owe you anything. So no, I don't think you're overreacting because truly, I don't think you would ever get this money back, even if you hounded them for the rest of your life. My entitled Karen of a manager is screaming at me for not knowing how to work any of the equipment at the restaurant I work at. But after months of trying to have them train me properly on the equipment in this restaurant, I had finally had enough, deciding to quit right there on the spot, all because of their awful treatment towards me. And now, as a result, I'm being called a jerk, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. So to start things out, I got this job around 4 months ago with a very local and very popular place. I'm not going to say the company or where it's located because I'm definitely not going to give away where I live. But needless to say, I thought it was the perfect job. The pay was good and the work was surprisingly well balanced. And I thought it literally was perfect. That is, until I got to the job and started training. Training itself was terrible, along with the test that you had to take to make sure you learned. The trainer that was supposed to be training me was out for nearly 4 full weeks. And since apparently nobody else could train me, I was either repeating the same task or I was sent home early. But I tried to tough it out and be sympathetic. I know that people have their own lives, and I didn't want to make the training any harder than it already was for the trainer and co-manager of the store. Well, eventually, I began to get yelled at for mistakes I made when I had zero clue how to do the task. I had no idea how to make the food that they wanted. I had no clue on how to use the machines they used to label food. And mind you, I was supposed to be a cashier. I applied to be a cashier and not a cook. I hate cooking in the kitchens because I always fear I will mess it up, and that's honestly what happened. I was told to go and cook something for an order, but I didn't know how to use any of the industrial cooking machines. Mind you, the kitchen is tight and narrow, and I have no clue how any of these work. There was some machine that was used for the eggs. I mean, it wasn't a simple pan and stove. There was also a large deep fryer with all of these buttons and numbers that I didn't understand anything about. I was yelled at by the trainer and manager for being slow and messy while I worked in the kitchen. I mean, it wasn't in my job description that I was going to be in the kitchen at all while working. I can understand packing food and putting it together, but they wanted me to actually cook things. After the grueling day, I finally realized the red flags. The constant screaming at the simplest of mistakes. Mistakes I had no idea were mistakes since I didn't learn any of the machines or tools. And so, at the end of my shift, I was called into the manager's office. The conversation went on, and she said to me, "Your performance today was terrible. You need to straighten up and straighten out if you want to continue with your training." And the only reason why I was getting the second chance was because they were beyond desperate for employees. So after I had heard all of that, I finally snapped. But I didn't do anything drastic. I was civil despite how badly I wanted to punch them both in the face. I simply stood up and said to them, "You haven't trained me to use any of the machines in the kitchen properly, or even how to properly prepare the food. The communication between manager and employee are of a low level of quality. And you know what? I agree. I don't see myself performing well in this environment with you and your company. Thank you for your time and your training." And with that, I shook their hands and I just left. For context, they don't communicate well. I would be scheduled on days that weren't on the scheduled calendar, and I'd have days where I was supposed to work, but I didn't. After they called me multiple times to come in and asked me to stay just until they were able to find someone who was able to work the hours I was going to have, I decided to promptly block them. My friends told me that that was a jerk move and that the company was in a lot of stress, but I don't think I was in the wrong. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? You are absolutely not the jerk here. Let me tell you something. Your friends are completely naive. They seriously are going to sit there and be like, wow, that company really is stressed out. They really could have used you or something like that. That is such a narrow point of view when it comes to work. It's not even funny. Let's kind of go back on what these people didn't do for you. They not only did not train you properly, but they then treated you like garbage when you didn't know what you were doing. Like, those two things alone are absolutely the mark of a bad manager, and it's a big red flag for me when working at a job. If your coworkers and your managers can't understand that a new person is going to make mistakes, then that is definitely not a place I would ever want to work at. Like, seriously, you weren't trained to use any of this equipment. You're staring at machinery that doesn't make sense to you, and you have a manager screaming down your back being like, oh, you gotta cook this right now. It's like, lady, what are you talking about? I literally was not trained how to do this properly, and there's a good chance if I do it wrong, I could get hurt. I don't know about you, but I can definitely see why nobody's sticking around. I mean, at this rate, they might as well etch the words help wanted into the glass on the door leading into the restaurant. Now, when it comes to you leaving this job and saying, you know what, I'm not putting up with this anymore, honestly, good for you. I would have done the exact same thing. These people seriously have the audacity to be like, oh wow, you don't know what you're doing. But in that same sentence, you could then be like, well then why didn't you train me properly? Like, the reason why you don't know what you're doing is because the person criticizing you hasn't done their job. So overall, I don't think you're the jerk. Your friends have no idea what they're talking about. And honestly, you did not do anything wrong here. And I know that if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend claims our shared home isn't mine and that he has full ownership over it, despite the fact that I pay so much money towards it all the time. So now I'm at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend purchased a home years ago before I was in the picture. At the time, he was married and had a child with his ex-wife. He has purchased the house entirely in his name due to her credit and has continued to own it after they've separated. He is a retired veteran and receives a monthly disability check from the VA that is about equal to my salary. As we were dating, I started to search for a house to purchase. My budget was limited, so I didn't have a lot of great prospects, so I was doing it rather slowly but still actively looking. As we got more serious, he really pushed for me to just move in with him, especially since he had his daughter. I was hesitant, but eventually I did. I've continued to actively search for a house to purchase and save towards a down payment. I've lived here paying half the rent and utilities and most of the groceries for the last year. The other day during a board game, my partner and I were debating in what seemed like initially a friendly manner, and this was all over the meaning of a rule during the game. Then suddenly he got really aggressive. He said that his name was on the mortgage and that this was his house. So what he says goes, and he decided the way the rule of the game was going to be played out. And when this happened, this threw me off and made me feel horrible. Like somehow this wasn't our house and my portion of the bills were being discounted. This also happened about a week ago. Today, the conversation of common law came up, and in him explaining to his daughter, it led to us talking about the home and how things were divided up if we stayed together that long. Regardless of the how though, he states that my payment barely contributes to the mortgage and only covers the utilities. I pay half of the cost of living plus the groceries for all three of us. Frankly, I pay more than I view are my fair share and feel splitting the cost of the 2-bedroom home down the middle leaves me paying for a room that I never get to use that his daughter lives in. Now, reading some step-parents blogs, they pay based on the number of rooms. Plus, my grocery bill has tripled living here. I feel like I'm footing the bill for a lot of his daughter's living expenses, which makes me feel resentful when every time he drives home that I don't contribute or have any stake in this home. He's right that I have no stake, but I more than contribute with household costs and chores. But if I moved out on my own, our relationship would end. So it all feels really silly. I want to revisit how expenses are split because I don't feel secure in the way he's talking that I won't be left out to rot. I am much better at managing my money, and even with a higher cost of rent living alone, I was able to save more money living on my own. And since he keeps making it so clear that this isn't my home and that I don't contribute, I frankly want to focus on saving more and finish purchasing my own home. And really, I just want to leave this home and this relationship. What should I do? That is a massive red flag that your partner is acting that way. This guy literally was like, okay, well, I own this house, so I get to make all the rules for this board game. This This guy just sounds like a hothead. Like he just sounds like someone who's gonna lose his mind over the smallest of things. And that is not fair in the slightest. Like seriously, this guy sounds really awful. And I mean awful in a way that would be really detrimental to your future in general. It also sounds like you're paying way more than you should when it comes to taking care of this house. And I think that's the part alone that would really make me move out. And you know what? You have said it out loud. You said you want to get out of this home and relationship. So I know if I was in your shoes and I felt this way, I would start that process right now of finding a new place to live and eventually moving out of that house and away from this guy entirely. Because frankly, the way this guy is acting is honestly inappropriate, and you do not deserve to get treated like that in the slightest. My entitled aunt in her 30s demands that my grandmother buy her a brand new bed, all because her current bed isn't memory foam. And I've honestly never seen more entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. So a few days ago, my aunt decided she wanted a new mattress, and so she went to her mom, who's my grandmother who I also live with, to go get her a new one. Now, this aunt is in her 30s and lives in her parents' basement in a room that was entirely renovated for her so that she could have a walk-in closet and everything that she could ever need, all including a brand new bed. She also doesn't work, so not a single penny of that room was spent by her. A few more things about her is that she's entitled and racist and can't stand when things don't go 100% how she wants them to go. Now, the reason for her getting a new mattress isn't really that bad. She suspected there was mold in it due to finding mold on her old bed frame and wanted to replace it since it had been a long time since she'd done so. But this next part is where she becomes a Karen. Her mattress, the one that my grandma bought her, brand new and entirely by her request, wasn't memory foam. Mind you, she picked out the bed herself and was upset that it wasn't memory foam. So this sent her into an absolute rampage. She began to stomp her feet, cry, and yell at my grandma, throwing a fit about how her bed isn't memory foam. My grandma, who's pretty tired since this just happened right now, just tells her that she doesn't want to deal with this right now and she'll address this in the morning. But when she said that, it set my Aunt Karen off even more. She began going on about how she can't possibly sleep on her mattress because it's not the right kind for her. My grandma even offered to get her a brand new memory foam pad for her bed as well, and even that wasn't enough. Eventually, my aunt just stormed out and left, and at that moment, nobody has any idea where she went. I do hope she's okay because it's late at night, and it did just snow like crazy. But at the same time, this outburst is ridiculous in my opinion. Yeah, that's a really weird reaction to somebody not getting their way. This adult human being is in their 30s, and they're freaking out that their mom, who's elderly and is a grandmother, isn't buying them a mattress. Like seriously, what's going on here? To seriously act that entitled honestly blows my mind, and I just can't understand having that kind of reaction to not getting the right bed. Like first of all, you picked out that bed yourself. You said, I want that one, and you literally got exactly what you wanted. Like did she not try to lay on the bed first to see if it would work? Like she literally has nobody else to blame about this but herself. So hopefully she is okay, but if she does come back, she's at least willing to see how silly she's being, because her reaction was honestly so uncalled for, and neither you nor your grandmother deserve to be treated that way in the slightest. My husband suddenly changed his personality a year into our marriage, and after dealing with a lot of his tantrums, I feel like I'm at such a loss, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, my husband and I have been together for 10 years, we've been married for 3, and we're both engineers. For the sake of this story, we'll call my husband Jay. That is not his real name. We had a wonderful relationship, and sure, we did have some conflict, but it was conflict that we spoke openly about and we tried to resolve. I always knew Jay's mom passed away when he was a baby, and his dad didn't talk about it, but he has a good relationship with his stepmom and sister, so I didn't worry. Before we got married, Jay was an awesome guy and my favorite adventure friend. We would travel and hike and go skiing, and then during COVID, we had to slow some of this down. And around the same time, he found out his dad lied to him about his mom's family, that they were horrible and mostly passed away. Well, it turns out that's not true. She had living siblings, parents, and cousins who were nice and very interested in a relationship with Jay. But right before our wedding, he didn't want the pressure of a big event to have them suddenly in his life. So I agreed we would continue to get to know them afterwards. A little over a year after our wedding, he was still super fun, but suddenly started having massive tantrums where he would yell and break or throw things and slam doors, which increased in frequency from never to about monthly over the next year. He also stopped doing doing mental labor to plan things as much, but also to repair the trust and relationship after this. Now, I admit, my response was sometimes successful and other times not so much. Sometimes I didn't accept his apology because I thought he was just going through the motions. Sometimes I must have seemed demanding when I explained the steps and reassurance that would help. But the worst part of my role was when his outbursts were truly terrifying for me. Despite trying to walk away or ask for kindness and patience to try and de-escalate, I ended up resorting to name-calling because it was the only physically peaceful thing I found that shocked him enough for him to pause. He went to anger management after we tried therapy, and the therapist referred him to an anger problem. Since then, he's been embarrassed to go to therapy, but he said it was a him problem and worked on it independently. Now he's finally stopped the scary and embarrassing slamming things, but just refuses to look at me and speaks really harshly in a quieter tantrum where he catastrophizes our life to me when he's in a bad mood. This change wasn't that helpful because now I'm just uncomfortable and I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. I used to be able to talk to him about anything, but now suddenly he says my criticism of his character surrounding his tantrums and his resilience and participating in our lives has caused this. Both of these are valid complaints. I mean, I did call him names when he would rage just to shock him into stopping, and this is only after I tried everything else, and sometimes I couldn't get over it easily. He also oscillates between saying how much he loves me while also saying that he hates me and that I made him this way. He went so far during his last tantrum to tell me that he only married me because he was expected to, which seems suspicious to me because I remember frequently talking about how young we were and that we could wait. But he insisted he wanted the rest of our lives to start sooner at the time. And now, after the past month, he legitimately appears to hate me entirely. Now, here's my honest question. Did I ruin the love by being intolerant of the tantrums? Is it unreasonable for me to believe that this is more of his drastic cycle through idealizing and blaming me? If so, is it reasonable for me to give him the chance to return to couples therapy and be accountable for actually working with his therapist? I also have a new technique to go for a walk or to a hotel when I catch signs of impending tantrums. Or does this guy honestly think that I ruined him for the rest of his life? In that case, I'm assuming I should just walk away, right? I'm honestly so confused and I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, in my opinion, I think his attitude and tantrums are so uncalled for. You are not the jerk for deciding not to put up with that. I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel the same way. I would not want to be yelled at about things that I did not do. It's one thing to have a civil conversation and try and figure things out, whether in therapy or just between the two of you, but it's another thing entirely for him to slam things and to start getting physically violent all over petty arguments. Seriously, this is a massive red flag in my opinion. So I think truly you're on the right track of figuring out solutions on how to figure this out, because his attitude and tantrums are not normal, and in my opinion, it absolutely needs to change if either of you are ever hoping to see success. My dad's friend made a joke that implied that she thinks I should move out, and now after thinking about it for so long, I'm now worried that this is actually how my dad feels, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 25-year-old female, and I cooked for my dad and his friends last night. It was my dad's first time gathering all of these particular longtime friends at our house, and my first time meeting them as well. We got along really well, and everybody seemed like great people. For some background information, I have a learning disability that makes it hard to pick up on social cues and come up with a quick response. I also have difficulty in school, so I've been going to university part-time for 6 years. I have 2 years left on my degree. I also work part-time and I make just barely enough to support myself, maybe about $10,000 a year. I live in a big city where apartments go for about $1,200 a month and student housing is more expensive. I moved out immediately at 18 years old and moved back home 2 years later during the last few months of my mother's life. My childhood dog passed away, and then my mom passed away 2 months later at 72. My dad would be completely alone if I wasn't there. After a few months, during which he had been healing and weekly therapy sessions, I adopted him a dog. He was ecstatic and spends most of his time playing with her and caring for her. My aunt, who is his sister, told me that she thinks adopting the dog saved his life. I spent my time studying, working, and watching over the dog when my dad is tired. I also helped him recover from major surgery in the past few years. He goes on vacation a lot, so I watch the dog, of course, when he's gone. Well, tonight at dinner, my dad told me he was getting beehives for the yard, and I joked that I was terrified of bees. please. And his female friend ended up laughing. I laughed with her because I thought it was funny, and then she said something that honestly blew my mind. She said, well, they'll be here by spring, so you have a reason to move out by then. Everyone laughed, and so did I because it sounded like a joke. But now I'm laying here in bed, and the thought just intruded into my brain. Why did she say that? Did she and my dad talk about that? My dad kind of paused for a second after she made that joke, and it looked like his brain was just a loading circle before he laughed. I took that as if he disagreed, but didn't want to say anything since everybody was having fun. He has expressed sadness to me before. When he misunderstood something I said as I'm moving out. Then he showed relief when I told him that wasn't what I meant. I'm on antidepressants again for the first time in a week after not being able to renew my prescription. The side effect I get from adjusting to a higher dose is panic attacks. And right now I'm laying in my bed panicking that my dad is telling people he wants me to move out behind my back, or that she wants me to move out for some kind of reason. My dad doesn't see her often. He just started catching up with her again after she said something about vaccines that he disagreed with a few years ago. But at least that's all I know. I really want to text him and ask him, hey, why does your friend want me to move out? And I really want to do that first thing in the morning. I'm a very direct person, but I'm also afraid that that will open up a can of worms that I will regret opening. What should I do? So I totally understand where you're coming from here. It really did seem like there's some kind of plot going on behind your back, also that you can move out of the house in some kind of way. But on the other side of it, it really seems like your dad enjoys having you around. So I really think it would be a bad idea to discount how your dad feels about you. He clearly likes you. He clearly likes you being around, and I think it would not serve you well to jump to conclusions. So if I was in your shoes, I would do exactly what you have planned. I would talk to him directly and see exactly what's going on. This way you can know exactly how he feels, and you can then know the truth, regardless of whatever jokes his friends might have made. An entitled Karen accuses me of trespassing and littering at my job. And even though I tried to explain to her that I'm working and on the clock, she still ended up blocking my car from leaving the park and even went as far as calling the police, claiming that I was above the law. Here's what happened. So I work for an HOA management company. What I usually do is go to different communities and do some maintenance work, such as picking up trash and fixing park equipment, stuff like that. And I always start my shift at 7 o'clock in the morning. I went to this park that has a rule that no one is allowed there before 8 o'clock in the morning. It was a very small park, so I was able to finish my job in about 15 minutes. And I was putting the trash bags out on the curb for the garbage men to pick up. They drive by at around 7:30 in the morning, so I have to be quick when I show up at 7 o'clock. Well, this entitled Karen was walking her dog when she noticed me putting the trash out on the curb and assumed that I was up to no good. She ended up taking a picture of me as I was working and a picture of the park hours. This entitled Karen then approached me asking me what I'm doing here. She said to me, "What are you doing here? Nobody's allowed to be here before 8 o'clock in the morning. You need to leave before I call the cops on you for trespassing and littering." I said to her, "Ma'am, I work here, and I am literally doing the opposite of littering. I'm picking up the trash here at the park." The entitled Karen then said, "How do you explain this trash you're leaving here? This is littering." So I explained that this was the trash from the park and that I'm leaving it here for the garbage men to come and pick it up. But this entitled Karen was refusing to understand what I was saying. She said to me, "No, it's littering and you can't be here." She then pointed at the sign. I said to her, "Like I said, I literally work here. I have a right to do my job here." This entitled Karen then asked me if I think that I'm above the law. But I said to her, "I never said that. I'm just here because I have a job to do. You know what? I don't even have to listen to you. I'm leaving." So I got in my truck and I started, just to find this entitled Karen standing behind me on the phone, keeping me from backing up. I could hear this entitled Karen calling the police. She said, "I'm reporting someone here at the park trespassing and leaving trash. He claims he's above the law." And I've honestly never been more blown away by somebody's entitlement in my life. So you know what? I just sat there and I waited for the cops to show up because I knew they would be on my side the second they showed up. I just turned up the music to ignore everything this entitled Karen was yelling. Fast forward, and shortly a police officer did show up. He approached the Karen first and then approached my window. The officer then asked me if what this lady was saying was true. But I said to him, "No, officer, I work here. I'm literally just cleaning up and I'm leaving trash for the trash men to pick up." Meanwhile, the garbage men are picking up the trash right behind him. The officer then said, "Very well. I'll just get this lady out of your way so you can continue with your day. And thank you for keeping keeping our community clean. I responded by saying that that's not a problem at all, and then I thanked the officer. This officer then drags this Karen out of the way. I then back up and drive away, while this entitled Karen stares at me with a shocked expression on her face. And at this point, I'm laughing and rolling down the window, making sure that this Karen can absolutely hear me. Wow, how entitled and weird can you possibly get? Like seriously, there was no reason for her to act that way. She stepped in the middle of a situation that literally had nothing to do with her. Like she was acting like this guy was doing something nefarious. He clearly was up to no good or something like that. Like she seriously has to be so dense to assume that the garbage bag, as well as his story of making the park cleaner, was somehow a complete lie. Like seriously, lady, what is your problem? Are you that bored that you can't just mind your own business? And also, this part about her stopping you from leaving the parking lot and literally standing behind you in your truck, that would have driven me insane, and that honestly is not okay. You can't block someone from leaving a public area like that, and I'm honestly kind of surprised that she got off the hook. So good for the original poster for keeping their cool, because honestly, I would have been a lot more angry if I was in your shoes. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I'm considering charging my boyfriend rent, all because he doesn't contribute anything to the house. But I'm honestly not sure if this is gonna ruin my relationship or not, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 31-year-old female and my boyfriend is 33 years old. We've been dating for 9 months and admittedly, things moved very fast with us. And I know what you're thinking, it was very dumb. We started living together about 8 months ago after 1 month of dating. He's a YouTuber who works from home, and while I don't want to discuss my job, to my knowledge, I make more than he does, and I am also gone during the day. He does some stuff on the side, such as buying and reselling items, but it doesn't make much profit. When he moved in, he offered to pay rent, but I told him he didn't have to worry about it and to just pay half the bills with the knowledge he would work on his YouTube channel during this time. Well, after 4 months of living together, I checked his YouTube channel out of curiosity and noticed he didn't have any videos posted since moving in. I mentioned this to him, and he said it was because he was spending the majority of the time cleaning, since I admittedly wasn't pulling my weight. So I started cleaning more and have been improving. Well, another 4 months have gone by, and I noticed his channel was updated, but it's only been updated once. In the 8 months we've been living together, he only updated the channel 1 time, and the video was only 10 minutes long. When I asked him and confided that I was feeling like I was being taken advantage of, he agreed, but then 2 days later began saying I was ungrateful and didn't appreciate him because he was cleaning the house, he was helping me with some legal paperwork, and he was finding good sales and deals for the both of us. We almost broke up right then and there, but I sent him a message saying why I felt justified, basically calling him out. He then apologized and promised to work harder. A week later, he claims he finished a video and was working on his next one. And maybe I should have trusted him, but I checked and it still hasn't been posted. So I made an offhand comment asking him if he got any comments on his newest video, but he admittedly said that he hadn't posted it and was working on the editing process. But if that's the case, then why would he tell me it was finished? Why is he working on the next video without finishing the first one? I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but on top of the other stuff that would take forever to get into, I'm starting to feel like I'm being taken for a ride. Like the only reason he's with me is because I don't charge him any rent. While I've considered breaking up with him, this is simply not an option for me right now. I'm considering charging rent because I kind of want to see what his reaction would be, because if he reacts negatively, that will honestly tell me everything I need to know about him. But secondly, we currently have a power dynamic that I'm really uncomfortable with. I feel like I have too much control and I don't like that feeling. I would also feel much more at ease as if this is our place that we live at. But I also recognize that it was partly my fault why he couldn't do so much work before. So honestly, should I be charging him rent? What should I do? Okay, I need to circle back to something the original poster said, because they said flat out they think they're being taken advantage of, and trust me, this guy is absolutely doing just that. This guy is skating by, not doing a single thing for his YouTube channel, and just literally staying at home doing nothing. Him cleaning or helping you with legal paperwork, or finding good sales or deals or whatever his excuse is, that is not contributing to the house in the slightest. Cleaning the house is literally just the bare minimum of what's expected. That is not some special occasion that's going to take you all day to finish. Literally, that'll take what, maybe an hour to clean and tidy up the house? But for the remaining 7 hours of the normal workday, what is this guy doing? If this guy really is a YouTuber, then shouldn't he be uploading consistently to keep his channel alive? He's only uploaded once in 8 months. Like seriously, your channel's gonna lose a lot of momentum just by doing that alone. And this is not a case where he's way too busy to make a video and get it done. Like this guy is just straight up not working and he's not doing anything right now. So it really does seem like he's taking advantage of you in a serious way. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would absolutely be asking for rent. Because right now, this guy is literally skating by without doing anything with his life. And I know that if I was in your shoes, I would seriously be very angry and feel like there's a freeloader mooching off of my hard work. Today, I messed up by racing my truck on a track with my idiot friends. And as a result, I have some serious repairs I need to do on my truck that I am seriously not looking forward to. Here's what happened. So I want to start off by saying that yesterday was crazy. I was having a day along the lines of something that would just be boring. Nobody to hang out with, the cats were going crazy as usual, so I was thinking that my day would be boring. That is, until my friend Sean decided to ring me up and propose an idea to race at his track. He made a dirt track when he inherited his father's old farm, and when he saw the farm, he instantly thought of a track of some kind. Since I had nothing to do, and my truck wasn't getting much use other than the common commute, I said why not? So I got my gear along with my racing mower. It was beautiful yesterday for our race, so me, Sean, and my other buddy Mike and Chris decided to bring our trucks along with another sort of vehicle. And like morons, we use our daily drivers first. So this is where the mess up begins. My truck isn't exactly stable. For a 2006, it's nice, but it has its flaws. The frame, however, is a mess, and I know it might need fixing soon. And when I say soon, I'm meaning today. So this track was relatively smooth, but still had bumps here and there. And my buddies and I were easily doing 50 miles an hour in timed runs. So that's when we thought that doing a race with all 4 of us on the track would be smart. We had a blast racing together, that is, until it became competitive. My friend Sean got bumped by Chris, and Sean ended up bumping me on the first turn. It sent the truck a little more sideways than it should have, and then I felt it lower just a little bit. The next thing I hear is my friend Sean on the walkie-talkie screaming out that I need to stop because my rear end just gave out. So as you could imagine, the race was ended short, and when I looked at the truck, I indeed had a compromised rear end. My rear shackle mount had snapped clean in half when the frame twisted slightly in that turn, and therefore my truck could not haul any big loads, meaning that I would not be able to haul my trailer. So I was stuck with a choice. I could either risk driving home very carefully, or I could crash at Sean's house for a night or two and try to fix my truck. Either way though, I feel like a complete idiot, and I am not looking forward to fixing that truck. Yeah, as someone who's not very good at cars, I have no idea what you broke on your truck, but from what you described, that sounded incredibly expensive. Like, I'm completely stupid when it comes to cars and trucks, but you have to be very brave to do some kind of racetrack, all with a car that you use to drive around. Like, that definitely sounds like a risky maneuver, and unless my car specifically was built for something like that, you better believe I'm not about to jump in my car and drive on somebody's dirt track. And this is your friend's dirt track, by the way. Like, seriously, this could have been really bad. Sure, you broke something on your car, but that truck very easily could have flipped or something like that. So I think overall you got off very easy, and honestly, you got very lucky, because this honestly could have been drastically different. Am I the jerk for not letting my girlfriend's best friend's daughter stay at our house for a couple of weeks? Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, my girlfriend and I have been living together for just over a year. We have a 4-bedroom house, and my girlfriend's daughter, who's 19 years old, also lives with us. Our other 2 bedrooms are occupied by my 4-year-old daughter when she stays with us, and we also have an extra spare bedroom. As a bit of background, Christmas is really important for both myself and my girlfriend. We both have lots of traditions, and have enjoyed melding our Christmas decorations, traditions, and food together over the holidays. My girlfriend's best friend from childhood lives about 3 hours away. They used to live in the same town, but moved away 5 years ago. And this best friend also has 3 kids. The middle child, who's 18 years old, has asked my girlfriend if she can come stay with us for a few weeks, which is honestly not really a defined amount of time if you ask me. This middle child and her mom haven't been getting along, and my girlfriend says her friend is worried about her daughter and would prefer her to be somewhere she knows is safe. My issue with this is that she teaches no responsibility to her daughter. I think she should learn responsibility and either learn to follow her mom's house rules, and if you don't like it, be a responsible adult and save money and move out on your own. I don't really have any sympathy in this this situation because I've been in that spot 3 times in my life and no one helped me out of any of it. I had to get a job and apartment and figure it out. We also don't really have space in the fridge for extra food for an extra person. My girlfriend thinks that I'm being selfish, but I told her that she's not helping anybody by letting this girl come and stay here. She is not helping her be responsible. It kind of ended in a blow up, and then my girlfriend told me to just remember this the next time I ask for something, to which I replied, "Oh, are you threatening me now?" Now, it's also very important to note that this is the 4th time one of her friend's kids have asked to come stay with us while in our town to visit their friends, families, and my girlfriend. Her best friend usually comes to visit every couple of months for a weekend and stays with us as well. I told my girlfriend that it feels like she's trying to ruin Christmas for all of us, and I said that if she insists on this girl coming to stay with us for a few weeks, then I will go and stay with my parents, or this girl can pay $150 a week. So honestly, am I being the jerk here, or is my girlfriend just being selfish? What should I do? Okay, so I've got a lot of questions that actually the original poster went on to clarify. Apparently, the girlfriend has helped raise these 3 kids and sees them as her own. Meanwhile, the original poster has never met them, and they actually moved away before he got with his girlfriend. So with that little bit of information, I can kind of understand where the original poster's coming from when they're saying, look, I don't want them staying at my house. Christmas is literally around the corner, and I'd rather not deal with that during the holidays. But on the other side of this, I do see where your girlfriend is coming from, especially with this added context that, yeah, she basically raised these kids, and clearly they feel comfortable enough to try and stay with your girlfriend at your house instead of staying at their house that they live at. So this really is a sticky situation overall. Now, here's the thing. If this was me and I was in this situation, I think I would also be really resistant to this kid staying for a couple of weeks. If they want to visit for a couple of days to try and cool off and like get their life together or something like that, I would feel way more comfortable with them coming to the house and staying for just a couple of days. Even if they wanted to stay for like 1 week, like that for me would be completely fine. But when this 18-year-old woman comes along and says, hey, I'm having trouble at home, can I stay at your house for a couple of weeks? That, in my opinion, would be completely inappropriate and not something I would be okay with. Staying for a couple of weeks doesn't give any kind of time frame. It literally gives you nothing. Like seriously, a couple of weeks could be any amount of time. Like, are we talking 2 weeks or 4 weeks? Like, how long should I expect this visitor to suddenly become a roommate in my house? I mean, I think I could see a scenario where this would work out to some extent. Like if this girl said, hey, I want to be there on December 1st and then I'll leave on December 8th or something like that. If there was some kind of definable range of time that you can expect her to be there, that would be okay in my opinion. But to instead give this ambiguous time frame of like, oh, a couple of weeks will be fine, that in my opinion is incredibly inappropriate, and I just don't think that would be good for anybody in the house. So hopefully this can get worked out in some kind of way, because I think the girlfriend and the original poster in this story could easily find some kind of common ground to accommodate this girl for maybe just a few days. Am I the jerk for supposedly ruining Christmas for a child, all because I refused to sell one of my favorite dolls? Here's what happened. I'm a 36-year-old female and I love thrifting. I'm also a kid at heart. So this summer, when I found several bags of American Girl doll clothing, I decided to buy them all. I collect old dolls that sometimes need clothing, but was really hoping an American Girl doll would show up. And against all odds, one did show up on the shelf a few weeks later. As a kid, I wanted an American Girl doll so badly, but they have always been pretty expensive, so I never got one. I paid $35 for the doll, and I took her home and enjoyed dressing her up. My son also joined in by dressing up his stuffed animals. It was so cute that I took a picture and I put it on Facebook. Also, while researching her, I found out that my doll is very rare, and it could be sold for up to $300 online. So I always think it's really fun to find valuable things like this at a thrift store for cheap. Well, fast forward, and today, a few days after Black Friday, I got tagged in a friend of a friend's post. A person by the name of Kay, that's not their real name, is asking if anyone has an American doll to sell. She had tried to buy one online for Black Friday, but couldn't find anything within her price range. I then instantly had Kay in my DMs offering me $50 for my doll. But you know what? I declined, telling her that I don't know why my friend tagged me because my doll isn't for sale. She then replied about how she promised her 6-year-old granddaughter a doll for Christmas. She was now worried if she ordered a more expensive doll online, it would not get to her in time, and then offered me $70 for the doll. But I again declined her offer and said that my doll was something I wanted at Christmas as a kid, and I waited a long time for it. Kay then immediately countered by saying something absolutely ridiculous. She said to me, "See, you know what it's like not to get an American Girl doll that you wanted so badly. Please do this. You can make this Christmas so special for my granddaughter. You can use the money to get a brand new one anyways." Now, honestly, I thought about it. I really did, but I still told her no thanks. Finding mine at the thrift shop felt very special. It was like it was meant to be or something like that. I suggested if she was worried about the doll not getting to her in time, she could get one of the cheaper American Girl dolls from Walmart and have it ready just in case, and return it if the one you're looking for doesn't make it in time. Kay then said that she didn't want a cheap doll. She then suddenly switched tactics, asking me if I would even be able to look at my doll again, knowing that not selling it meant I was ruining Christmas for a 6-year-old girl. But you know what? Yes, Kay, I can do that. Because when you decide to be manipulative is where I draw the line. I then immediately blocked her. And you know what? Maybe this makes me a jerk, but I really don't care. So truly, to that granddaughter, I'm sorry. I hope you get the doll of your dreams someday, but you're definitely not gonna get it from me. Yeah, that Kay lady was completely out of line. You can tell she was going through every tactic she could think of. She started off by trying to offer you more money, and then all of a sudden, once you didn't give in to her stupid demands, she thought to herself, okay, time to guilt trip, which is such a toxic and annoying thing to do. Like seriously, just take no for an answer. Accept that somebody's not gonna do exactly what you say, and then move on with your life. To sit there and dwell on it and be like, oh wow, you're gonna ruin Christmas for a little girl. It's like, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? Like, why on earth would anyone try to pin that on somebody they've never even met? Like seriously, let's think about the context here real quick. This is some random person on Facebook who suddenly slid into the DMs of the original poster and basically said, hey, give me that doll you posted about, please. If you don't, you're gonna ruin Christmas for a little girl. Like seriously, back off and get a life. Or just plan better in the future. So to answer the question, no, you are definitely not the jerk here. You found that doll in the coolest way possible. You found it out of nowhere in the middle of a thrift store on the shelf. Like seriously, that's such a cool way to find something that you've always wanted ever since your childhood. So no, of course you're not the jerk. This Kay lady probably doesn't even have a granddaughter, and she was probably just trying to get it for herself so that she could sell it online. And with that in mind, I don't blame you in the slightest for blocking that lady. She was acting incredibly weird. And I know for a fact if I was treated that way, I would probably block her as well. My entitled boss refuses to fix legitimate safety concerns that we have at our job, claiming that we are just lazy and that we are just gonna have to deal with it. So I decided to get some revenge by transcribing and printing off every single condescending remark she ever said about the company, resulting in absolute chaos, with my boss eventually losing her job. Here's what happened. So this happened a few years ago, and I will be vague since I'm not sure if the dust has finally settled from this fiasco yet. But at my former company, I was the secretary of a small improvement team that would meet monthly to discuss issues within the company and brainstorm ways to fix them. Something you need to know about me is that I was given this role because people know I am meticulous at keeping records, all due to some HR-related issues I had at a previous place of employment. I don't think my boss realized that this careful record keeping also applied to her, especially when she appointed me to be secretary of this little committee, but I digress. I was an award-winning model employee, and I went above and beyond what was asked of me, just like many others in my department. But we were still having customer complaints and dealt with regular safety issues due to the company at large and through no fault of our own. When we brought these concerns to our boss's attention, emails were left unread, and during in-person exchanges, we were literally called whiny, needy, and were straight up told that we just needed to deal with it. Whatever the issue, from items being stolen by customers to people being unhappy with the procedures the boss had set down for us to follow, it was always made to somehow be our fault. When we sought support from other departments, we were met with cold indifference, since the boss was great to them, and we must be exaggerating the things that she said to us. Well, during an improvement meeting at the end of the fiscal year, it all came to a head. Myself and a couple of team members dug our heels in, and we were insistent about the unresolved issues that the boss refused to acknowledge. And as a result, she finally went off on us. She told us that everyone was incompetent, we didn't deserve our jobs, and that maybe customers would like us more if we were more likable. When people pressed her on safety issues, she just continued to reiterate that we would just have to deal with it, and also said that if someone passes away, then apparently they would have already anyways, right? Well, Well, I, as the secretary, did my duty and took notes of all that happened over the course of that meeting. I usually did bullet points, but that night I was feeling a little more thorough, so I wrote down every single word that was said, every hateful comment, every denial of accountability, as well as many of the idle threats. All of that was recorded in black and white. Now, a second part of my job was to distribute the notes from the improvement meeting all the way to the rest of the company. So, come the next morning, I ran about 100 copies of the transcript of the meeting and hand-deliver them to every single department in the building. And when I did that, things really blew up. People from other departments who had attended the meeting were able to verify that everything I typed up had really been said. And let me tell you something, everybody was super mad. People were threatening to quit their job, they were refusing to do their normal duties, they were browsing online to find another job during work hours. Even my boss's boss, who worked at headquarters, got wind of these meeting minutes only a few hours after I handed them out and ended up having an hour-long off-the-record conversation with me about all the safety issues I had documented, all the concerns I had submitted to management in writing, and all the records I had regarding my boss's inaction. She was very grateful for the 100 pages of documentation that I sent over and thanked me for my time. Well, the day after I unleashed Pandora's box, I put in my 2 weeks notice. I took a new job and I pieced out to greener pastures. At first, it seemed like things were calming down after I left, but the following year, the company did not renew my boss's contract. I still feel a bit bad because I wasn't trying to get her fired or ruin her life. I was just desperate for some accountability thrown her way just to create some kind of positive change in the company. But at the end of the day, I just did exactly what she told me to do. Yeah, your former boss is awful. Here you have some actual safety concerns, and you're trying to bring this to her attention, but instead of doing anything about it, she would just brush it off and be like, oh, you're just gonna have to deal with it. And she would even be like, well, if somebody passes away, that's their problem. Like, no, lady, if somebody passes away, it's gonna be your problem. If there are safety concerns at a job that would put someone's life at risk, and you have a manager who's not willing to do their job to get it fixed, that, in my opinion, is the mark of somebody who should not be a manager. Like, she absolutely should have been fired right after that. That is so unacceptable and so dismissive of other people's safety. And that dismissive attitude would not protect her when things finally hit the fan. So personally, I would not feel bad about this lady getting in trouble. You did not do anything wrong by printing off everything she said. This lady absolutely had it coming, and she definitely needed to go. Because seriously, somebody could have gotten hurt. And I can easily see this happening if you had just stayed silent. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled customer launches a shopping cart at me right as I'm bringing shopping carts back into the store. And I've honestly never been more annoyed by a customer in my life. Here's what happened. So a few months ago, I was doing a cart run in the parking lot of the store that I work at. This is something that I do fairly regularly, and on this particular day, I had a whole bunch of carts that I needed to gather. So I found myself nearing the entrance when I heard someone shout out, "Hey, you over there!" I turned around, and a few feet away, there was some random dude with a cart. He then proceeded to launch his cart towards me with the expectation that I would make his cart part of my lineup. The cart hit the line with a deafening crash. Now, it's not the fact that he wanted me to include his cart in my line that I consider the problem. I have had numerous customers ask if I could take their cart, to which I almost always say yes, unless I truly have so many that to take another would make things more difficult. However, this dude didn't even ask, and instead sent his cart barreling my way at a high speed. He seemed to be under the impression that his cart would not render my line difficult to control, never mind the fact that I had a line of 9 to 10 carts, which was already somewhat difficult to control, but nothing unmanageable. And then there's the whole thing about launching his cart at me. Rest assured, folks, a shopping cart can cause great deals of harm if not handled correctly. I once got jabbed in the back of my foot by a shopping cart, and it caused me great deals of pain. If that is what a single jab can do, what do you think having a cart launched at you at a very high speed is gonna do? Best case scenario, it hurts like crazy. And worst case scenario, a bone ends up getting broken. Thankfully, he aimed at my line, but it was still really dangerous. The impact could have caused the line to break up, which could have caused damage or harm. But the worst thing about the whole situation is that as he was doing all of this, he was smiling. Not a malicious smile, but a good-natured smile. This man legitimately did not see anything wrong with what he had just done. Well, if I were were the manager and I had just witnessed that whole situation, I would have stormed out of the store and explained to him using some not very nice language exactly why what he had done was wrong before promptly issuing a lifelong ban from the store. All I'm saying is that the customer's really lucky that his cart didn't hit me. I mean, like I said, a shopping cart hitting you at a fast speed can cause some really bad harm. Not to mention that could technically count as assault, and you better believe that I would be pressing charges. Wow, that's really rude of that customer. I know whenever I have a shopping cart, I either put it in the gated area where it's supposed to be, or I bring it to the person who's putting the carts away, but only if they don't look busy. Like, if I can see they're in motion and taking the carts in, I just avoid them because clearly they have enough on their plate already. The last thing they need is me bringing more carts around just to try and muscle them back into the store. So for this guy with a smile on his face, throw the shopping cart at this guy at full speed, that in my opinion was really uncalled for. And I don't blame the original poster for getting upset in the slightest. Am I the jerk for telling my cousins off after they started taking their grief out on me in regards to my siblings and my parents? Because honestly, I'm starting to second guess myself and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I'm the only surviving member of my family. When I was 5 years old, I lost my mom and my 4 older siblings in an accident. I was then raised by my maternal grandparents. After the initial accident, my family were told none of us had survived, and so I was a surprise when the news reached them. My grandparents, aunts, and uncles were all thrilled, but my cousins were not. They were much closer to my siblings. They were similar ages to them. Meanwhile, I was 6 years younger than my youngest sister and 8 years younger than my youngest cousin, so I wasn't really in with my cousins. But with my siblings, we were a tight unit. They would often reject our cousins when they weren't interested in a baby tagging along like me. So I think when I was the one who came home and not one of my siblings, I think my cousins hated me for it. So we never got close and it was always weird. But then a few weeks ago, we were at my grandparents' house for a celebration. It was my husband and I with our 4 kids. My cousins were all huddled together for a while and then started dropping comments to me about the choice to give my kids their own names and not honor my mother or siblings with their names. They asked me how I could claim to love and miss my family when I didn't even think to honor them, or how I would act like they meant the world to me when I didn't want my kids to know about them via their names. Now, I did my best to avoid them the rest of the celebration, and then a couple weeks after that, we were together again for my aunt's retirement party. The comments continued there, and they told me they would have named their kids after my mom or siblings, but their parents had suggested it should be reserved for me and left alone if I didn't, because maybe it would be too painful. They told me I hogged my family just like I hogged my siblings back then, and I didn't even love them as much as they did. I became so frustrated that when we were all alone in a room together, because I had followed them there, I told them that they should not be taking their grief out on me. I told them I never tried stopping them from using the names of my mom and siblings for their kids. They never said anything about wanting that to me until they decided to make all those bitter comments. I told them I was sorry they were grieving, but I could not take responsibility for coming back and not my siblings, and that naming my kids has nothing to do with them, so drop the comments about it showing a lack of love. I told them I was not going to be their emotional punching bag, and I did not deserve their grief being taken out on me. Well, ever since then, they have responded with a lot more anger, saying I have no right to accuse them of that, and they have every right to make an observation on my kids' names. It has become so tiring, and I'm questioning if I was wrong to say all that I did. So honestly, am I the jerk here? What should I do? Your cousins are being really toxic here. First and foremost, the fact that they wouldn't embrace you as the one cousin that survived, and they didn't decide to like huddle around you and build you up, that in my opinion is insane to me. Here you are, just a child, and your cousins just outright reject you all because you're not your siblings. Like seriously, these people are so messed up. I can't imagine doing that to a child, especially after their entire family passed away. Like that is seriously so evil. So when it comes to the names of your children and how your cousins are like, wow, you should have named it after your siblings, and how they really try to imply that because you named your kids something else, you must have never even loved them in the first place, that logic is so flawed it's not even funny. They are literally trying to guilt trip you for being alive, and then shaming you for doing something that you didn't do that they wanted. It's honestly insane, and there's no way I would ever put up with that. But when it comes to how you approach this and how you put them all in their place, honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. You laid down a very clear line in the sand that these people had better not cross ever again. You told them exactly how you feel, people and how they need to get out of your business and stay out of it. And how do they respond, by the way? Oh, that's right, they get embarrassed and angry at you, which in my opinion is all the evidence you would ever need to basically prove your case and be like, oh yeah, you really are guilty here. You feel bad about how you've been treating me all these years. Because I bet they probably thought they could get away with these awful comments. They probably thought this was okay because you hadn't said anything yet. And since you've maybe been quiet in the past, they could just keep doing this to you even with your kids in the picture. But that is absolutely unacceptable, especially since all of them are adults. Like, I don't care what kind of grief they're going through. To pin that on the one cousin that survived and to imply that they never loved their siblings or their parents, all because they didn't name their 4 kids after their dead siblings, that in my opinion is insane, and I can't understand that. If they really miss those family members that much, they would have honored them in some kind of way. So truly, I'm so sorry you have to deal with this, because your cousins sound really exhausting, and I know if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would ever want to deal with that. My partner has lied to me for years, claiming that he enlisted in the army right after high school, and now that I've found out the truth after all these years, I do not trust him anymore, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I met my boyfriend in the summer of 2015. We were smitten, and a few months later, we began officially dating. Education is really important in my family. I have a bachelor's degree, and I'm the least educated. My boyfriend has a few credits, but that's it. And I always overlooked this as he enlisted in the army after high school. Our relationship has had its ups and downs, and trust has been a struggle, mostly because he has told a lot of lies. There are many examples, some of them big and some of them small, but just know I decided to forgive him every time. He has mostly been a good and loving partner. He is my best friend and we have built a life together, but he has been very sick. The Sunday before Thanksgiving, I noticed his eyes looked a bit yellow. He told me he felt fine. He was just tired and he didn't think they looked yellow. Some of his meds have been causing mood swings, and he has been getting really defensive while talking about his health. So I just dropped it. Fast forward and Thanksgiving came around. My family are doctors, every single one of them. My sister specializes in GI stuff, and at one point they asked me if I noticed his color. We discussed how something needed to be done. We weren't doing his family stuff specifically because he wanted a day where he didn't have to answer questions about his health. But I talked to him privately about how my sister and brother-in-law wanted to talk to us about it when he saw them on Saturday, to which he agreed. On Saturday, he is yellow. We had been talking about getting him to a GI doctor, but now we're talking about getting him to the emergency room. He got overwhelmed, and we compromised on him getting to sleep at home and us going the first thing in the morning. So my sister and mom come by to pick us up first thing in the morning. We discuss which hospital would be best. My boyfriend's health insurance through work may or may not be in effect, so we are thinking VA. He got overwhelmed and said he didn't want to go there for reasons like the quality of care and long waits. My sister said there is a chance he would end up getting sent to a bigger hospital in our area anyways, so we went there. We still don't know what's going on, but he is very unwell. My family is concerned that his family doesn't fully understand the severity and then get on me to make sure that they come by to see him for themselves. So his mom and stepdad came by. I think I was successful, but we just made small talk mostly. His nurse came in to say she got him off his liquid diet, and when the tray came in, they left. He had one bite and then suddenly started vomiting, and I even went out to ask the nurse what they needed to do with the vomit bag. His mom and stepdad are at the station, getting put on the list to be notified of anything, and that's when we start talking about the insurance thing. I told them I planned on being with him all day tomorrow, so I could figure that stuff out. I said that I haven't even started looking into programs that can assist veterans like this, but they stopped me and asked what I'm talking about. They then said that he is not a veteran. Now at this point, I'm very confused, and it became obvious to all of us what has happened. They asked me to not say anything yet, and if it weren't for trust being such a big thing in our history, I may have waited, but I lasted 2 minutes before I asked him. He immediately told me the truth and began answering my questions. We talked for a few hours, and during the nurse shift change, I asked them if they could give him something for anxiety and left after they did. Having that conversation with him yellow in a hospital bed was surreal. I think I'm most upset that by saying a stupid lie when we met just to impress me has led to almost a decade of him lying to my family and my friends. He wants to tell them, but I don't think I can keep this secret long. They are all full steam ahead to help him out and are leaning into his VA benefits. I can't lie for him, but I also want him focused on his health. I don't want to lose him, but I don't know if he's lost me. I want our life together, but I want to never see him again. I'm afraid of life without about him in both versions. So do I tell them or do I wait until he's more stable? Do I stay with him or is it insane if I'm even considering it? What should I do? This is a massive red flag and it is not something I would even take lightly. This guy lied about being in the military. He lied about serving and then also having insurance. Like, that is not something simple that you just lie about. That is a serious lie that has a lot of implications. Like, he has been fooling you for years. Think about that for a second. This guy seriously said he joined the military after high school, but in reality, he's been doing who knows what. And I don't know about you, but if I was in your situation, I would be very scared. What has your boyfriend been up to after all these years? Because he has definitely not been in the military. Which, again, why would someone lie about that? Do they really not think that people are gonna find out the truth? This whole scenario is seriously disturbing to me, and I would not take this lightly if I were you. Because if he can lie about serving in the military, then who knows what else he has possibly lied about. Today, I bought a car that I thought was legit, but ended up getting scammed out of thousands of dollars. But thankfully, after a long investigation with the police, I was able to get a full refund. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I found this amazing deal online for a sleek, almost brand new car. The price was unbelievably low, and the pictures made it look like a steal. I know what you're thinking, that's a giant red flag, right? But I was so excited that I just let my guard down. I contacted the seller who claimed to be overseas, but assured me that he had a trusted third party handling the sale. He sent me all these official looking documents, including a contract and what appeared to be a legitimate invoice. I mean, this seriously looked legitimate. The whole thing felt like a well thought out operation. Well, long story short, I wired them the money and the car was supposedly on its way. Days passed by and I got nothing. No updates, no tracking information, absolutely nothing. And that's right when it hit me. I had definitely been scammed. Frustration doesn't even begin to cover what I felt. I decided to take matters into my own hands and I reported the incident to the local authorities and filed a complaint with the online platform where I found the listing. I also reached out to my bank to see if there was any way they could trace the funds. Days turned into a week, and just when I was losing hope, I got a call from the police. They had tracked down the scammer's location, and it turned out to be part of a larger scam operation. They were able to freeze the funds in the scammer's account, and with the evidence gathered, they were building a case against the whole group. But it didn't end there though. I had gone through the process of getting my money back from the bank, and it honestly took me some time. They were very thorough in their investigation, but eventually I got a full refund. That is literally my worst nightmare on planet Earth. Can you imagine spending all that money only to then find out that you had accidentally slipped into a scam operation and that the car you're trying to buy isn't actually real? Like, this guy probably spent like thousands of dollars wiring over to these people overseas. So it just goes to show you that you need to keep up your guard no matter what, because even if something looks like it might be legitimate, at the end of the day, it might just be a giant scam. My entitled manager gives me an ultimatum, claiming that I can either choose to work at my awful paying job or I can choose to go to graduate school. So I decide to get revenge by quitting right there on the spot, proving to that manager once and for all exactly where my loyalty lies. And I've never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Here's what happened. So I used to work for a company that advertises knights, horses, and real weapons. And trust me, if you know, then you know. And I was a follow spot operator. And basically, you point the big light at the horseman to highlight them. The company didn't seem to like hiring extra people for that position, and in hindsight, the turnover rate was pretty high. Plus, the pay was only $10 an hour. And trust me, this will be important later on. During my work there, I had major surgery, which took me out for about 2 months, requiring quitting and then hiring back again. And that never seemed to be an issue. A few months after that, I developed a pre-septic bacterial infection to a mild form of sepsis. My fever was also 103, and my heart rate kept going up. I was very sick, so this required me to be out for a week. However, for some reason, I had to miss an extra night of work and forgot to call in, largely because my medications knocked me out. And trust me, I know this was my bad. This is also going to be important. At the same time, I'd been accepted into graduate school and had a class that met one Saturday a month. Eventually, I was called into my boss's office to discuss the no call, no show. The conversation went as follows. My manager said to me, "You did a no call, no show, and that is really bad." I said to them, "I'm sorry. I sent you an email and a doctor's note afterwards, and I did that as soon as I could. I understand that this is an issue though." My manager then said that they've written me up, but that's not actually why they called me into the office. My manager then said to me, "So you're asking for a Saturday off every single month? Well, that's that's our highest attendance day, so we can't do that. I then said to them, well, I thought with enough notice you could schedule around me. But the manager wasn't having it. They said to me, see, that's just the problem. We've had to constantly lean into your needs, and now it's time for you to consider our needs and your team's needs. I then asked them what they're talking about, and that's right when they said the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. They said to me, it's either us or the class. I explained to them that I need this class for full attendance and I cannot drop it. It's right then that the manager said in a smug tone, well, I guess we'll see where we are in 2 months. I said okay, and then I left their office. I told the coworkers that I liked goodbye, and then I clocked out. My manager then comes storming out to my truck to scream at me, asking how I could quit on them like that. So I told them that they wanted me to choose between grad school or this awful job, and I had made my decision. I then took off my costume belt and I handed it to them, saying I'd bring the rest back when I had time. Well, a week later, I got my first real stagehand job that paid me $20 an hour. So yeah, screw my other manager. I have a master's degree now, and I'm set to start teaching at colleges this next semester. And as a cherry on top, I'm now a professional stagehand. So hopefully my former manager understands that they should never give their employee an awful ultimatum. Yeah, that manager basically punched themselves in the face. Here you are making $10 an hour, and now they're like, oh, you gotta quit that class on Saturdays. It's time for you to start thinking about us. It's like, seriously, what on earth are you talking about? This job sucks big time. You think I won't quit on the spot? Like, I've had jobs like this where the manager just does not care about what you do outside of work, but then they also try to act like they have full control over your life. Like, I'm sorry, that's not how this is gonna work. I show up to pay the bills and make rent. You are simply a paycheck and possible insurance. So honestly, good for the original poster for putting their foot down and deciding that they are not gonna put up with that garbage, because that place sounds like an awful mess to work for. And I don't blame you for a second for stepping away and moving on. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for fat shaming my aunt at my dad's funeral after she continued to ridicule me about my weight issues at my dad's funeral? Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Back in 2015, my dad had suffered from a blood clot heart attack and passed away as a result of not getting to the hospital on time. Due to the loss of my dad at the time, I lost a bit of weight out of depression, bereavement, and stress of having to arrange the funeral for my dad. While at the funeral, my aunt kept making remarks about my weight, saying to everyone there, we need to fatten this one up. And then she would point to me, despite the fact that she had an overweight problem herself. She kept on saying this to every family member that attended the funeral. None of my family members there said anything and simply ignored my aunt, but thankfully my cousin told her off by saying that this isn't the time or the place to make remarks like that. But my horrible aunt had the gall to say to him, I am just trying to help them in this time of need. After saying goodbye to my dad and during the food gathering, my aunt came up to me and said to me, with all this food, you could do your dad a favor and eat a lot of food because you need the weight. Now, by that time, I had had enough and I started shouting at her. I said to her, well, whatever weight I need, I can use a lot of yours since you're definitely packing. After I said that, I stormed off, leaving her looking rather gobsmacked because I yelled that around everyone to hear. Later that day, I was at home and my cousin rang me up to tell me that my aunt was way out of line and she absolutely deserved that. Apparently, my cousin told me that after I left, my aunt blew a fit and said I was being rude and immature, while also trying to say that she was only trying to help. But when nobody would take her side, she stormed off in a huff as a result. Until that day, I never forgave nor wanted to talk to my aunt ever again because she ruined the day I was saying goodbye to my father. On a positive note, after my dad's passing, I was able to put weight back on by eating right and also started working out at a gym where I was able to gain some muscle. And even now, I still keep going. When it comes to my horrible aunt, she still has not set foot in a gym. So I need to know, am I the jerk for telling off my aunt at my dad's funeral? No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your aunt was absolutely out of line. She knew what she was doing. She was making fun of you and poking fun at you at a time where that really was not appropriate. Your dad just suddenly passed away, and she wants to sit there and try and make jokes about it? Like, seriously, this lady's messed up. There is legitimately no good excuse for her to act that way, and if I was in your shoes, I would have freaked out as well. Like, this scenario was completely inappropriate, and it really was so uncalled for. And sure, she might be like this in other situations where she's playful and she likes to poke fun, but it really seemed like she was missing the mark in this regard. I know when I've gone to other funerals, the attitude is never like poking fun at people or even like joking or laughing. It's always very serious and very respectful. People are trying their best to put their best foot forward, and they're trying to be there for family members who are clearly grieving, and you definitely fall into that category. So for your aunt to literally just not even see what's going on in the room and instead decide to poke fun at your weight, that in my opinion is so weird. I mean, your cousin did try to set her straight at one point. They stepped in and said, "Hey, what are you doing? This is not the time." And sure, maybe the aunt thought she was being like the playful aunt of like poking fun at you, but like, lady, can you read the room? This is not the time or place to be doing that. It's very clear and obvious that the original poster was going through a really bad state right now. They were sad and depressed, they missed their dad, and they were stressed out of their mind just trying to get the funeral together. Like, I don't know about you, but I would not want to deal with that kind of treatment, especially in the middle of my own father's funeral. So truly, I don't blame you, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think that your aunt is a massive bully. My mother-in-law has a problem with hoarding, constantly digging through my trash and my personal items, making a point to save every little thing that we throw away. And after dealing with this for nearly 3 years, I am finally at my breaking point, and now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I live with my husband of 20 years, our teenage son, and my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law moved in full-time in 2020 after selling her house. She helps with our son and has staked the laundry and dishes as her territory. She is originally from Southeast Asia, but lived in the United States about 50 years. I am the wage earner of the home, and my husband is a stay-at-home dad with very part-time work as a web designer. Now, here's where my problems really begin. I have several privacy-related problems with my mother-in-law, but one problem in particular is that she digs through the trash daily and rescues items. Some end up in bags stacked in her room, some she brings to the flea market with her and gives it away, and some items she tries to give to neighbors or people who visit the house. Both my husband and I have spoken to her more times than I can count about not digging through our trash. She says she won't do it again, but gets angry about being confronted and definitely does it again. But now she just tries to hide it better. All of my neighbors have reported seeing her digging in the trash. They find it funny, but they know it upsets me. To the best of my knowledge, she does not dig through our neighbor's trash, thank God. I have managed to mitigate some of this by tearing things up or breaking them when I don't want them given away. Let me explain a little bit about some of the instances that have really been bothering me. So have you ever gotten a hole in your underwear and decided it's time for new underwear and that now you're just gonna toss out the old one? Well, my mother-in-law dug them out and tried to give them to the lawn workers. Is your fruit rotten and it's time to go? She'll dig them up, cut out the bad parts, and bags up the good pieces and leaves them on the neighbor's doorsteps. Every single Chinese food container that has ever entered my house has been painstakingly saved, washed by her, and bagged up and piled in her room. And this is all against my will. Every single plastic bag, including, for instance, freezer bags of vegetables from the grocery store, it's all washed and hung in various places in my garage to dry and be reused. Yes, I've asked her not to do this because I don't like being surprised that the bag of peas in the freezer is not in fact peas, but instead some indiscernible frozen leftover masquerading as peas. I'm sure by now you all realize that she is a hoarder, and her bedroom in my house, which I bought and pay for and I maintain, is piled high with junk, at least some of which she rescued from my trash. A couple times in the last decade, we would confront her about the piles of junk, and we would go through them with her and forcibly give away or throw away items. She would be very upset and always says she's gonna hurt herself when we do this. I mean, her room in my beautiful house looks absolutely awful. When she moved in with us in 2020, a good bit of junk came along and was deposited in our garage. We have spent the last 3 years taking out a small bit at a time and convincing her to donate it to somebody at the flea market. I am depressed about the situation. It has really strained my marriage. I'm not happy about the example it sets for my son, and my anger simmers all the time, and occasionally I yell at my husband or I beg my mother-in-law to stop, but nothing ever changes. But the trash digging really is the offense I need to know what to do about. But that's not the only way she's overstepped her boundaries. Here's just a couple more that might give you an idea of what we deal with. Now, I know she goes through my open mail and opens bills in my little office. I have caught her opening my unopened mail. I've yelled at her and that has stopped. But she has also gone into my bedroom when I'm at work and organized my shoes and moved some of my things around. That also deserved a yelling, and I made my husband buy a combo lock for the bedroom door, but he's never installed it, and she seems to have stopped. She goes through our stored snacks, pulls out a few things and bags them up, and gives them to our neighbors on a weekly basis. And this is one of those things that I just can't get to stop. She also has an OCD for turning off lights, and will turn off the front porch light even if I am out shopping and come home in the complete dark and have to stumble my way to the front door. I confront her every time this happens, and occasionally she manages to turn the light on when she sees me arriving. If I am working on a project between the house and the garage, she will ask me on an hourly basis if I am done with the lights that I'm using. I'm honestly done fighting this. I tell her to leave my lights on, but this doesn't destroy me as much as the trash. And trust me, I'm very much over the trash digging. I have proposed to my husband of putting a lock on the trash can, which means that we are the only ones who can put things in it, and I will have to take it to the curb the morning of pickup. This is very much an inconvenience to me, and my husband is very resistant. He wants me to put more sensitive items in our neighbor's trash, which they are okay with, but I also feel inconvenience and it's not private. I'm at my wit's end. I think I'm a good daughter-in-law, but I have lost a lot of love in the last few years. I am frequently frustrated in my own home. I feel no one's on my side and that I have no power and no privacy. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. That seriously sounds like a nightmare. I can't imagine living like that. Here you have your mother-in-law living with you and your family, and she is just completely stepping on every single boundary you give her. And from the sounds of it, it really does seem like you're gonna have to secure your trash can if you ever hope to have any kind of privacy in regards to your trash. Like seriously, that sounds insane to me. There is no good reason for her to act that way, and I think I would lose my mind if I dealt with that. Especially the part where she's going through like old underwear and bills and all this other paperwork. Like seriously, lady, mind your own business. Also, if I'm gonna throw something away, it means that I don't want to keep it. If I wanted to keep any containers from like the Chinese food restaurant, or even my underwear with a hole in it, I would have kept it and used it for another day. Like this really is a problem about hoarding, and I seriously think it might be time for some kind of intervention. And I'm talking like possible like professional help, because this is insane. I mean, it started with her room, and then it led to the garage, and now this could easily lead in other directions. So I think some serious changes need to be made, because this current living environment absolutely does not work. And if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Today, I messed up by pretending that I don't speak English to a cashier at checkout. But now, after coming back to his store, I feel completely silly, as we have now exchanged numbers, and he's excited to try and teach me English. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So this happened a couple weeks ago, where I had a few friends come visit me from Argentina. They don't speak English, so obviously around them I speak Spanish. I'm Argentinian and Spanish, born in the United States, and Spanish is my first language, but I speak English fluently. On this day, I was taking them a few places in my town. I live in the Midwest, so our tours consisted of a lot of coffee shops, as well as Target and a TJ Maxx. We were checking out at TJ Maxx, and the cashier greeted us like normal and started silently scanning our items. At this point, we haven't spoken much. All I said was yes and thank you to him asking if we found everything all right. He was very attractive, and my friends made a joke about American men. We started talking a little as he scanned, and he noticed we weren't speaking English. He looks up and he kindly asked if we were from here. Now, I've dealt with every kind of awful comment and question under the sun, but his was just curiosity. Now, my friends knew certain words and phrases, and one answers by saying, "No, we're from Argentina." The cashier then goes on about how he loves Argentina and soccer, and then finishes by asking if we live in the United States so far. He spoke fast, so my friends all turned to me to translate, but instead I turned to him and say, "Sorry, little to no English," all with an accent behind it. My friends all looked confused and quietly asked what I was doing. Honestly, it was just a gut reaction. I've always wanted to use my Spanish-speaking skills in this way. For example, last week at work, a lady came in, looked me up and down, and in the rudest way possible, asked if I spoke English. Shocked, I quietly said yes, of course, but then I thought I could have said no and not had to deal with her. But this time my mind decided this was the moment to try this. After telling him that, he apologizes, and in broken Spanish, he says that he loves Argentina and football. It was cute that he was trying, and we all laughed and thanked him, and he ended the conversation with adios and buenos dias, which is good morning, but it's the thought that counts. In the car, my friends died laughing, telling me that was so stupid, but I said, whatever, I'm never gonna see him again, right? Well, a couple days passed by, and honestly, I forgot I did that, and we went back to TJ Maxx because my friend was leaving soon, and she wanted to exchange a dress that she bought. It was just the two of us this time, as last time there was 4 of us in total. The line was super long, so she makes the line while I shopped around a little bit more. She had already made it to the cashier by the time I got there, and of course, it was the same guy. I recognized him straight away, and as he had his back turned, asking for help on the exchange, my friend jokingly asked if I know English today. I was prepared to go either way, but when he came back, he looks at me weird and asked if we were the girls from Argentina, and he said this in the cutest broken Spanish I've ever heard. I was hoping he forgot us, but I smiled and said yes in Spanish. I then kept adding to the issue and say to him, "Oh, you remember," in my attempt at broken English. He then says in Spanish that you guys are very pretty, and we just laughed and thanked him, and he finishes her items and starts scanning mine. My friend had a phone call to take, so she excused herself. Now it was just him and I was ready to come clean, but then he asked if I was living here now. This time he said it in English, but he spoke slow, hoping I could understand. I responded and kept the act by saying I just moved here, and I was just digging myself deeper at this point. He tried to give me a few recommendations, and at this point I was struggling to act like I didn't know what he was saying, and he was trying to find the right words that I could understand. I end up paying and I was ready to leave when he puts his hand to his ear, gesturing to try and get my phone number. He said he could show us around sometime, and if he needed anyone to learn English with, he would be happy to help me out. I actually found this guy attractive, and honestly, I felt like garbage already, so I just gave him my number. I left, and later that day, I received a text message from him in Spanish. He was using Google Translate to try and communicate with me, and we ended up talking a lot. He was so sweet and said he always wanted to learn Spanish, so maybe he could teach me English and I could teach him Spanish. He asked me if I was free this Saturday to meet up with him and a few of his friends for drinks, and I haven't given him a clear answer because I don't think I can keep this up any longer. Oh boy, that really is a messy situation. Here you have a guy that you actually might really enjoy being around, and instead of having a good time with him and getting to know him, you're stuck in this weird lie. I mean, you seriously cornered yourself, and that really sucks because it sounds like this could be really fun in the long run. So honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would message him or meet up with him in some kind of way and simply just tell him the truth. Tell him straight up right now that yes, you do know English and that you're sorry for lying to him earlier. And I wouldn't try and lie about the situation at all. I would just be completely transparent and be like, look, I always wanted to try this and I really regret trying it on you. If this guy is as cool as you're describing, then he will probably be okay with it and think it's funny. But if this guy freaks out and gets offended, well then that's okay as well. At least you know where you both stand and you can then move on with a lesson learned. But hopefully this all works out because this guy you're talking to sounds like a lot of fun, and I would hate for it to be ruined all because of a silly joke. My entitled mother demands to check my bank account just so she can track my spending. And now after being pressured by her to give over my bank information, I am now feeling so anxious and incredibly stuck, and I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm an 18-year-old female and I opened my own bank account a few months ago under my own name. Before I got my first paycheck, my mom told me that she'd like to check my purchases and see how much money I spent on the account. Now, another problem is that I do have to give her some money for other reasons. I bought a new phone, which was secondhand, and when my mom asked me how much I spent on it, I lied and said that it was $300, but it was actually about $420. I earned $1,400 monthly, and yesterday she asked me how much money I have left, and I said that I have $800 left, which is true because I had to pay my mom $60 that I owed her. I also used the money to buy things that I really need. I wanted to buy the important things now, and I do that so I don't have to worry about getting my second paycheck. The problem is that I sell old clothes online because I need as much money as possible to move out of this sickening household, but when I sent the packages to my clients, I was too lazy to go to the bank and withdraw the money for the post. So instead, I just used my card. Yesterday, my mom wanted to see my bank account and asked me if I got the statement of my account because I tried to get it, but it says that I have no statement. But she simply doesn't believe me though. But I did not want to show her my online banking account. I just feel so uncomfortable showing her what I spend my money on because honestly, it's my privacy. I also don't understand why she feels so entitled to know. It is my money, and I did work hard for it, but the problem is that my mom is a huge drama queen. Saying no will only give us more trouble, but I also don't want to explain myself because I really think that I don't need to. I honestly just don't want any trouble because I'm so tired of this. I wanted to rush to the bank and see if I could get any kind of statement and just hide them. Today is my grandma's birthday. My mom told me to gift her some money, and I thought about getting another statement once I withdrew the money for my grandma, just so that my mom could finally leave me alone. This situation is stressing me out a lot. I woke up with anxiety because I hate having to worry about things that actually aren't a problem. I don't know why my parents make me feel so bad for spending my own money on things that I really need. It's just too much stress for me. Thankfully, they don't have my account details, and they don't have any access unless I let them, but I'm scared that they might force me to do so or something like that. I just want her to leave me alone. So now I really feel stuck, and I just don't know what to do. I think you need to remember and understand that you are an adult. You are 18 years old, and you have it right. This is your money. Your parents do not have a say in what you do or do not show them. They can't make you do a single thing in this scenario because from the sounds of it, they're being very intrusive for no reason. Like, just think about it for a second. Your mom is like, okay, I need to know what's in your account right now. And the chances are she's probably saying this because now that you're 18, she no longer has access to your bank account like she used to when you were just a kid. But now that you're an adult and you have your own bank account under your name, she is practically shut out of having any say in what you do and don't do with your money. And the worst part about this is that she knows that entirely. She 100% knows that that money is yours, but she's hoping that you don't know that fact and that instead you just kind of cave and give her what she wants. But here's the thing, if I was in your shoes, I would tell her straight up, no, I am not giving you my bank statement. That is absolutely not going to happen and you can't make me. Your money is your business, not hers. If you owe her money or anything like that, I would honestly try and get that paid off as soon as possible, just so you are completely out from underneath her thumb. That way you're debt-free with your mom and you can start that process of finding someplace else to live. But it's so inappropriate for her to be like, oh yeah, I want to track your spending and see what you're spending money on. It's like, no you don't. Actually, you don't need to see that. It's none of your business and you're not going to see it. And this is not one of those scenarios where you're like hiding something, because I'm sure that's an argument she's going to try and bring up. That is such a weird way, in my opinion, to try and manipulate the situation, and it could possibly be her way of making you feel bad about minding your own business. So in my opinion, I don't think you did anything wrong, and I think you have every right to say, no, I'm not going to show you my bank account. I would also, as added protection, go to the bank and remind them that no one else is allowed to have access to your account except for you and you alone. Not your mom, your dad, your cousin, anybody. Also, you can go on your bank account and be like, yeah, I want paperless statements. So stuff that's sent to like your phone or your email address, and then obviously lock those down so she can't see that either. Because truly, your money is your business, and there is no reason for your mom to try and track your spending. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My job suspended me for a week after an impatient customer left me a bad review, and I am honestly so sick of this toxic job, and I'm just not sure what to do. Here's what happened. So I work lunches at a nice restaurant in Las Vegas. Last week, there was a party of 32 people scheduled to come in, and they assigned me and another guy to take it and called in one more server to take other tables that were booked and any walk-in that we may have had. Well, unfortunately, they only scheduled one busser and one food runner. Now, on any given dinner shift with over 100 covers, there's at least 4 runners and 3 bussers. On this lunch, including the 32 top, there was 75 covers. The 32 top was very nice but very needy. They were sat on 6 total tables, so each table's orders had to be taken separately and rang in separately as well. In the meantime, a bunch of tables came and they decided to take them and gave a few to the third server, but also started seating us, even though we were still trying to take drink and food orders for the 32 people. The other server helping with the table is fairly new, so he could not handle the 32 people and the 3 tables that they sat him. I had also gotten 3 tables and 2 two-tops, as well as a 4-top. Now, in all the madness, I was running food for my tables and others, grabbing all the drinks from the bar, and then finally the manager started helping. Even one of the chefs stepped out from behind the line to help run food. Well, in that time, my party of 4 felt like they weren't getting the service they should have gotten, and I admit I wasn't as focused on them as I was on the 32 top. I did let my manager know that my service was lacking, and I could feel they were upset without telling me, so my manager gave them free dessert that of course I had to deliver. A week later, later after my shift, she told me they left a bad customer feedback, which they send out to people who have reservations. They gave the ambiance of the restaurant 1 star, they gave the food 2 stars, and the service 1 star. The comment said as follows: "Our server was busy with other tables, and the service isn't what it was the last time we were here." Now, at my job, if you get a bad review, you get suspended for at least 7 days. No arbitration, no discussion, and no coaching. It's just bad review and then you're suspended. The worst part is the manager who was there that day was the one who had to suspend me. She said, "Do you remember that really busy day last week? And the table that I sent desserts to? Yeah, that table left a bad review, so unfortunately you're suspended." The place is very toxic, but I really don't know where I could work that I can make $500 to $1,000 in 3 to 4 days a week for lunches. Lunches allow me to spend time with my family and be home for dinner with my kids. I hate this place, but unfortunately, this place allowed us to live a certain lifestyle, and now we're kind of stuck and need to make good money to be able to pay for everything. I don't know if this is just a rant or if I'm looking for advice. I'm always looking and applying for jobs, but there isn't anything out there right now that will even come close to being able to pay the bills, especially now during the holidays. So I really feel like I'm stuck in such a bad place. Honestly, that's an awful policy. Some customers, in my opinion, are just idiots. Most of the time, they don't know what they want, and their perception of time is always completely wrong. Like seriously, you could step away for 2 minutes, and they'll pretend that it's been 40 minutes. Like how could management not take that into account? Some people just go into restaurants with a bad attitude, and they just want to take it out on their server or somebody on staff, and that's seriously not fair for the worker. So truly, I hope you're able to find another job, especially one so you can make enough money to make ends meet, because right now the way you're being treated is super toxic, and hopefully you're able to get out of there sooner than later. Am I the jerk for unintentionally poisoning my roommate after they ate food of mine that was found in a dumpster when I went dumpster diving? Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old male and I recently moved into a shared place, and there is someone who keeps stealing my food. At first I thought it was just a mistake, but even my leftovers were being eaten. It was very clear that whoever was doing it on purpose. I spoke to my housemates about how I would just prefer to be asked first, but they were just nonchalant about it, and none of them admitted to doing it, and I haven't caught anyone in the act, so I just tried to ignore it as it only happened every couple of days or so. Well, a few days ago, I came home from work with a carton of eggs that I found while dumpster diving, as well as some bread. I wanted to give the eggs the water test before eating them, just to make sure that they were safe to consume, but I was too tired, and I went to bed early without eating. The next day, I found out that one of my housemates got so sick, he ended up having to go to the emergency room. My eggs were not in the fridge where I left them, but I saw the carton and the shells in the trash, as well as my bread already being opened. I had a hunch that it was him, because there was a possibility that the eggs had gone bad, but I was also annoyed at the fact that he helped himself to my food without asking me first. When he came back, I asked him if he had eaten my eggs and bread, but he denied it. I then said, "Okay, but I hope whoever ate them doesn't get as sick as you did before, because I found the eggs in the dumpster." His face immediately dropped, and he looked visibly uncomfortable. He got angry and went from saying that he may have consumed the food by accident, as he wasn't paying attention and he doesn't exactly remember, all the way over to accusing me of poisoning him. He said it's a health hazard to bring food like this into a communal space without warning everybody first, as it's not common in shared spaces for people to eat other people's food by mistake. He hasn't spoken to me since then, and my housemates are siding with him and calling me disgusting for doing that. A part of me feels like I wasn't wrong because they were my eggs that I was fully intending on eating, and I didn't think I had to warn people against eating food that didn't belong to them, but I also do feel guilty that he got sick. Now here's the thing, I did not do this on purpose. I have been dumpster diving for some of my food recently, so I was fully intending on eating it, just like I've been eating the food that I've been finding while dumpster diving. I try to exercise caution, and thankfully it hasn't made me sick yet, but had he not eaten it first, I was probably going to end up in the ER myself because I was obviously going to eat my own food. I also didn't do it randomly just to try and bait and catch whoever was eating my food. Seriously, food poisoning is not a joke. As I said, I just moved recently, and I'm just trying to get on my feet. I also understand that although I make sure to wipe my food down first, ultimately it is gross to put food that came from a dumpster into a communal fridge or even a pantry of some kind, and I will not continue to do so moving forward. So instead, I'm just just gonna keep it in my room. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk for accidentally poisoning my housemate after they ate my food without permission that was clearly spoiled? No, you're not the jerk at all. Your roommate should not have eaten your food in the first place. That is literally the base problem in this scenario. These people clearly don't understand or even respect your boundaries, and they're just trying to walk all over you. And I completely agree with you. You clearly didn't do it on purpose, and you weren't trying to poison anybody or catch anybody in the act. It really does seem like you were trying to test those eggs first before you decided to eat them just to be on the safe side. So you know what? I don't think you're the jerk, and I think your roommates are absolutely in the wrong, regardless of if they got sick or not. An entitled customer complains that he didn't get exactly what he wanted at our restaurant, even though we gave him exactly what he wanted. Here's what happened. So I was a server from 2007 all the way to 2019, and I do have loads of customer stories under my belt, but this guy has always stood out to me. Picture this, a chain steakhouse around 2008. I'm barely a year into serving, and I think it's going well. I get this table, a husband and a wife, and I do the normal intro, the specials, and I grab their drinks. When I come back with drinks, they order. I don't even remember what the wife had, but the husband said to me verbatim, "I'll have the porterhouse T-bone," as well as his temperature preference and the side items. Fast forward to me delivering the food, and I set their dishes down, asking them if there's anything else that they need in this moment. The man looks super confused. He says to me, "I ordered the filet. This has a bone in it." I say to him, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I thought you said the porterhouse T-bone. Did you want the 7-ounce filet or the 9-ounce? He says to me, "Yeah, I ordered the porterhouse T-bone, the 20-ounce filet." Now, at this point, I'm completely confused, because for starters, I brought him what he asked for, and secondly, we didn't offer a 20-ounce filet. So I regrettably told him that we didn't have a 20-ounce filet, and that what I had brought him was indeed the porterhouse T-bone steak. He says to me again, "This has a bone. I want the 20-ounce filet." I thought to myself, maybe if I bring the menu over, he can show me exactly what he meant. So I grabbed the menu and I asked him to show me exactly what he wanted. He was already irritated, but obliged me and pointed to the porterhouse on the menu. He looks at me smugly while reading the menu. "See, porterhouse T-bone, a 20-ounce filet." He was reading the first line of the description and didn't even bother with the rest of the words. I pointed this out to him and I said to him, "Oh, you have to read the full description. It says 20-ounce filet and New York strip on the bone. That's what makes up the T-bone." At this point, I'm feeling confident that I explained the situation and that he would finally understand. But nope, this guy just doubles down. He says to me, "I don't care. The menu said 20-ounce filet and that's what I want." After explaining one more time, he still refused to budge and grabbed a manager. Now, of course, this was the dumbest manager you could ever imagine that had zero restaurant experience prior, but that's really neither here nor there. I watched the manager and the customer go back and forth before the manager figuratively threw up his hands and just walked away. I went back to the table and I asked if the manager was able to resolve the issue. The man said to me, "No, I want a 20-ounce filet. I don't want the T-bone, and I don't want 2 9-ounce filets, but I guess you don't have what you advertise." I ended up apologizing and asked him if there's any other item we can make instead, or if there's anything at all I can get him so he can have a better experience. He replies to me by saying, "Yeah, I want the 20-ounce filet, but since you don't have it, just grab me some ketchup." At this point, I thought I was going to scream, but I just grabbed some ketchup, dropped it off, and watched him proceed to eat a beautiful porterhouse T-bone with warm ketchup and a sour expression. And of course, this guy left absolutely no tip. I waited tables for years and years after that encounter, and I also dealt with many more jerks besides this guy, but nobody ever touched the stupidity of that guy who wouldn't even bother to read the second line of the description and then acted like it was our fault for not offering 20-ounce filets that literally no restaurant ever offers. Yeah, from my own experience working as a server and a busboy, I can confidently say that some customers are just really dumb. They don't know what they want, and even when you prove them wrong and you're like, "Look, you ordered the wrong thing," or even something along those lines, it's still not good enough, and they're still gonna act like a complete moron. And that's really unfair for the person having to deal with the order. Like seriously, it sounds like this guy was asking for something that literally doesn't exist. But I guess you can't expect much from somebody who is so unreasonable. My sensitive friend needs constant accommodation, all because she got out of a messy breakup. And now I'm so exhausted dealing with her weird attitude that I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so here is basically what's happening. My friend by the name of Jane, that's not her real name, doesn't have the most stellar record when it comes to relationships. Her boyfriend of 5 5 months broke up with her 2 months ago, partly due to her volatility and partly due to whatever shortcomings he had, which is like fine, whatever. Now, a week ago, there was a group dinner to celebrate our friend Lynn's promotion, and I ended up bringing my boyfriend to that. So all in all, there was 2 couples plus Jane. Everyone knows my boyfriend, and he has been to gatherings with all of us before, so it's honestly no big deal. Well, that is, to everybody except for Jane. Jane was enraged that I would bring him because it made her the only single person at the table. At some quiet point during the meal, she unbraided me in the shrillest way possible, saying something to the effect of, "You have no idea how insensitive you can be. You are being such a jerk right now." The deafening silence around the table honestly made everybody confused. And here's the thing, this isn't the first time she snapped at me or at other people. Apparently, I didn't get the memo that our friends were trying to accommodate Jane by not inviting my boyfriend. I thought the invitation was for both of us because we've all done things as a group in the past. No one else had a problem with my boyfriend being there except for Jane. So the arrangement had been made in order to avoid any meltdowns from Jane, I guess. The next day, she texts this massive paragraph about how I violated everybody's boundaries. When I asked the others, they said they had a great time, and it honestly wasn't a problem at all that my boyfriend came along. They were just afraid of Jane having a meltdown by being the only single one at the event. Essentially, I was supposed to leave my partner at home so she didn't feel as single and alone. Mind you, I make plenty of time for Jane for just the 2 of us, and I'm certainly not a big public display of affection or one of those obnoxious couple types in the slightest. No one in the group has engaged with her since this blow up, and our friend group has admitted that we've all been walking on eggshells around her. We are all in our mid-30s. How is it our collective problem that she's single? We are literally including her in all the events that we do. Are we supposed to accommodate all of her volatile feelings? I'm generally supportive and try to prioritize the friendship, but I assume this is an irreconcilable difference due to her admitted insecurity. So honestly, I'm at such a loss, and now I seriously don't know what to do. The way that Jane's acting is really inappropriate. She is literally holding this entire group hostage all because she is single, which is honestly bonkers in my opinion. How is that fair for anybody else in the group? Like seriously, in my opinion, if this lady really was your friend, she would not try to hold you accountable for her weird feelings. Like sure, she feels like the only single person at the group, but this is a 33-year-old woman that we're talking about for context. Like why is it everybody else's responsibility to dance around her weird problems? This isn't even one of those situations where you're trying to be accommodating, because right now Jane is trying to pretend like you violated some kind of boundary when in reality you just brought your boyfriend to celebrate a friend's achievement. Like seriously, this is not that big of a deal. You and your boyfriend are not the enemy here. The real enemy here is Jane basically acting like her problems are the most important thing in the group. It's also really disappointing that everybody's walking on eggshells around her. Like seriously, somebody has to say it. I know for a fact if it was me getting text messages from Jane, I would tell her straight up that she's not going to talk to me like that and that I can do whatever I want. I would also explain that me bringing a partner to some kind of like friend get together is not some kind of attack against her or like some kind of violation of boundaries. Like that's an insane precedent to set, especially when the boyfriend in question has been really cool with this group of friends for a long time. And you know what? Sure, maybe Jane has gone through a rough patch and she just got out of a relationship and it really did not go well. But seriously, how is that the original poster's fault? Why should they, as well as the rest of the friend group, have to carry around this weird baggage that Jane is throwing on everybody else? Because this is seriously not fair for the original poster. And if anything, this is just going to be a surefire way of making sure that Jane doesn't show up to any future events. Like, I don't know about you, but I would definitely not want to deal with that. Like, why would I want to navigate that type of drama when I could very easily skip doing stuff with Jane in a group setting and just try and do stuff without her? Now, I'm not saying that this is what should happen, but what I am saying is that this is what's going to happen if she keeps acting this way. So you know what? To the original poster, I don't think you did anything wrong. I think that Jane is acting like a complete weirdo, and there's no reason for you and your friends to have to walk on eggshells just to make her happy. I'm convinced that my parents are setting me up for a surprise arranged marriage, and now I'm completely freaked out and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So to start things out, my parents are very traditional, and I am more of the white sheep of the family. I don't really look like a lot of my family and have always gone against the grain. Starting when I was a teenager, I knew what path I wanted to take for my future. It was not what my parents wanted, so they fought back, but we ended up with an agreement that I thought wouldn't matter, and that was if I wasn't married in 10 years after I started college, they would arrange some kind of marriage for for me. Now here's the thing, I figured they were joking with me, and there was also a thought that there was no way I will be single in 10 years. I have had some flings, but I haven't had anything very serious. Up to this point, I have been driven to get where I'm going right now. In my dream career, I am stable, self-sufficient, with no debt, and becoming successful. There has been no talk about it throughout the years, and I honestly thought that it was all forgotten. Well, that is until my older sister said that she was coming back this week for an event. She lives several states over. I don't get to see her as much anymore. I mean, we are close and we do talk a bunch, but everything has been normal with nothing really being said or hinted at this point. I went to pick her up from the airport and I noticed she had 3 fancy dresses, and one of them was a very traditional dress used for engagements, weddings, or other similar events, with the other 2 being really formal dresses. Now, when I questioned what this was for, they said, don't worry about it. Then they later said it was for an agreement, and it was right then and there I realized she used the word agreement. I dropped her off at our parents' house and they wouldn't let me in the house, but there were a bunch of cars and I saw decorations in the house. They kicked me out and said they would talk to me later. This was 2 days ago, and now they invited me to dinner for Thursday and told me to dress like I was receiving a reward for all my hard work. Now, with all things considered, it is driving me crazy that I'm basically being blocked out, and I'm nervous about what Thursday holds for me. The only agreement I can think about is the arranged marriage. I asked my sister again if this was what I think it was about, and she said not to worry too much about it, but then added that our parents do notice things and wouldn't leave me with a stranger. And these are all odd comments that are making me paranoid. I seriously don't know if my sister is slipping information or is just pushing my buttons and making me go crazy, because right now I'm questioning my sanity. So honestly, I need to know. Those who have been in arranged marriages before, what in the world is that like? And also, how did it come up? I feel like this is not normal if this is exactly what it is. Should I just not even go and just skip town? I mean, I have driven by their house, and there is still a bunch of cars and a lot of activity, but every time I get close, my mom calls me and says to come back Thursday, with my sister being sent to basically act like a bodyguard. So with all things considered, I seriously am so lost and I don't know what to do. I first want to start off by clarifying that the original poster has basically said that this is a culturally based thing, and that if he doesn't show up to this and it is an engagement, then there would be major backlash for him and his parents and his family. He could apparently be shunned and outcast because of this, depending on how much effort and time were being put into it. But with all that in mind, I'm honestly really freaked out on behalf of the original poster. First of all, why on earth would you agree to some kind of arranged marriage, even if you're joking or not? That sounds like a nightmare to try and set yourself up for, and I just can't imagine why you would say that, especially if this is something that would happen in your culture. Now, for me, I think arranged marriages like this, especially when you don't know you're gonna get married, that in my opinion is incredibly toxic, and I just don't agree with it. And obviously, my perspective does not have arranged marriages, so there's probably like a lot I don't understand, but in my opinion, I don't think I need to know the nuances of this culture to literally stand here and be like, no, this is wrong. You shouldn't force somebody to get married to someone that they don't even know, because I think that's creepy and incredibly weird. Like seriously, this guy's about to get hitched up with a lady he doesn't even know. Like that is seriously so scary to me, and it's just so unacceptable. Now, I know if I was in this situation and I felt this kind of weird pressure from my family or something like that, I would be getting out of that town as fast as possible. There's no way anybody's gonna force me to get married, especially to someone I don't even know. That concept just doesn't make sense to me, and it's not something I would ever feel comfortable with. So truly, for the original poster, I'm so sorry you're stuck in this scenario, but all signs point to you having an arranged marriage. And if you really don't want to be a part of something like that, then I think it's time for you to plan out some kind of strategy of how you're going to deal with this when the time finally comes. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my son's wedding, even though I paid for his siblings? Here's what happened. Okay, so I want to say that there is a lot of this, and I'm not entirely sure I can accurately sum up everything. Long story short, my youngest, who's 24 years old, is excitedly planning his wedding. Our family is fairly well-to-do, and my children, even as adults, are somewhat spoiled. And you know what? Being their father, I like spoiling them. They are good people and they deserve it. However, Jason, that's not his real name, has always struggled both academically and especially socially. He is gay, and we live in a particularly conservative area, so he has had a rough go about it. I will also say not all the family agrees with Jason's lifestyle, both immediate and distant. That in and of itself has led to a lot of conflict. Naturally, I try to stay out of it, but that simply isn't possible. Anyways, along comes my son's first and only partner by the name of Alex, also not his real name. They officially met a little over a year ago, though it sickened me to learn that they first began communicating years ago through a prison pen pal program. While Alex is quiet and polite in person, he is large, heavily tattooed, and is undeniably intimidating. He also has a mile-long record, some of it containing physical offenses. A large portion of the family refuses to be around him. He really frightens them. Alex has recently proposed, and much to my displeasure, Jason said yes and is beyond delighted. Because his siblings have gotten beautiful weddings, which I footed the bill for, I'm not surprised that Jason came to me asking about a budget. The thing is, I can't in good conscience approve of this wedding. I swore that I would be there and that I wouldn't miss it. I will support Jason the best way I can, but I simply do not approve and I will not pay for something I am so terribly against. I wouldn't go as far as to say that Jason was distraught at this turn of events, but he was quite devastated. I think a lot of things were said on both of our sides that we regret, and me being a jerk was definitely said. I will say the rest of the family agrees with me. None of us want Alex around and none of us like him. The unfortunate side effect of all of this is Jason alienating himself from the rest of the family. He's gone stone cold no contact with his siblings. Our text messages have been few and far between and very impersonal. I've tried calling, but he simply won't answer the phone. I've tried going to his job site and he doesn't want to see me. I've even gone to his place where he currently resides with Alex, and the lights are on, yet they act like nobody is home. The family blames Alex for this behavior. I mean, this is what awful people do. So the selfish part of me wants to blame Alex as well. But I'm not entirely convinced though. I also still have Jason's voice ringing in my ears telling me that I'm a jerk. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, so the original poster gives us some more information, and they say that they're not against their son marrying another man. That is apparently not a part of the equation at all, but instead they don't like the fact that Jason is marrying somebody who has an awful record. Like apparently this guy has a long record of stuff he's done, and this is the thing that's scaring the original poster. They are very afraid that Alex is going to treat their son horribly, and honestly I can kind of see where they're coming from. Like this guy has a violent criminal history, and that's the thing that scares the original poster the most. They also go on to say that they believe that people can change, but they also doubt that someone with this kind of history can change in the slightest. So I don't totally think you're the jerk in this situation. I just think there's a lot of sensitive feelings in this scenario, as it really hits close to home in many ways. Because from your son's perspective, they're probably thinking to themselves, look, I found somebody that I love, that they believe is reformed and changed. So the original poster son is probably devastated that you're not stepping up and trying to help out with the wedding in some kind of way. So I can completely understand why your son's like, no, I don't want to talk to you anymore. They probably feel betrayed and very upset that you're choosing to take the family side instead of trying to get to know their future husband. So this is really a mixed bag here. I don't think you're the jerk overall, but I think there is still stuff that you need to talk about with your son if he is willing to talk to you, because this is clearly a very sensitive situation, and it really would be a shame if this turned out to be the reason that your son never talks to you ever again. My girlfriend of 4 years has no spatial awareness and has tunnel vision in everything that she does, and it's gotten to the point where it's driving me absolutely nuts, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So honestly, the title says it all. She has no spatial awareness and it's driving me nuts. And this is resulting in a lot of broken items and bruises on me. Here's just a few examples that have happened this week so far. I walked into the bathroom while she was brushing her teeth, and she saw me and we nodded at each other. I walked behind her and she whipped around full speed to ask me a question, all while brushing her teeth, resulting in elbowing me right in the jaw and getting toothpaste all over my shirt. Another time I was holding our cat and she wanted him, so she went to scoop him out of my arms and hit me in the chest twice, pulling the cat out of my arms fast and hard. And of course, he dug his claws in because of the sudden movement, but she was already walking away, so I got cut badly when she pulled his claws out of me. Even now, just a few minutes ago, I was doing dishes and she walked in the room calmly, then quickly slammed down the dishes as I was sorting silverware and was gone in a flash. Well, she smashed one of the bowls over my hand and I was bleeding everywhere, but she was listening to music and simply didn't notice, just turning and walking away to do the next thing. I've brought this up before, but she just says to me, yeah, I know I flail. now. I try to remember not to, but I don't always have time to think about it. Stuff has to get done, and I can't be sluggish and waste my time constantly. I can't relax like you do. Now, like I said, I don't believe it's malicious, but other than just hitting me, she constantly is breaking things. She slammed her coffee mug down on the coffee machine so hard that she broke her mug, as well as the bottom part of the coffee machine where you set the cup, and bent the top part, so I have to fight to close it now. Also, 2 Nintendo Switches have fallen victim to her slamming them on the table when she gets up. I bought a set of 24 glass cups a year ago, and we currently have 9 left, and I really want to know how I can solve this, as it seems like a non-starter. How can I make her understand how big of a deal this is? When I yell ow or say, "What are you doing?" she just starts crying, gets upset, and then walks away from me. When I bring it up gently, she just says something like, "Oh, I didn't know. You don't seem upset about it." Now, here's the thing. Every single other aspect of our relationship is awesome, but I'm sick of being sore and her spending all of her money to replace expensive items that are supposed to last for several years. How do I broach this topic and still be taken seriously? What should I do? Man, I can imagine how frustrating that would be to have all this expensive items and glassware just to then have it broken by your girlfriend all the time. Like, you're not kidding when you say she has no spatial awareness. She literally is not in control of where she's at, and it seems like she's just not paying attention at all. Like, seriously, it doesn't take that much effort to be like, okay, let me watch where I'm going. Let me try and be a little bit more careful and not break stuff around me. I'm curious now to know if this is something she only does with your stuff, or if she's breaking her stuff as well. Because I'm hoping that this isn't some kind of like malicious thing she's doing to try and get back at you, and that instead this is just something that's a part of her life that she's trying to figure out. Hopefully it's something that can be figured out, because honestly, this must be miserable to live with. I mean, I can understand this happening every now and then, but for this to be constantly happening all the time, that would seriously be very obnoxious, and I would not like that in the slightest. So hopefully your conversation with your girlfriend goes well, because her behavior absolutely needs to change. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. My entitled Karen of a teacher made my childhood a horrible memory, and after years of dealing with this all the way into adulthood, I can confidently say that I wish her nothing but the worst, and I'm seriously so glad to be away from her. Here's what happened. So I want to share a very painful moment in my life that even today, I'm still affected by the issues from my encounter with a Karen teacher during my childhood. A long time ago in school, there was one particular teacher that I had the unfortunate displeasure to meet. She was such a cruel and horrible woman that she took great joy in seeing me suffer, to the point where she had encouraged my fellow classmates to bully me, all because I was quiet in class. This teacher made me feel less as a human being, and it took me years to overcome the issues that I had suffered from my time in school. There is no revenge or Karens getting what they deserve. This moment of my life didn't have that typical type of ending, where the Karen got fired or something like that. The only way I got away from the Karen was by moving on to the next grade. Back when I was 6 years of age in 1998, I was attending school for the very first time, and this is where I was starting the first grade. I remember it was very daunting for me, which made me as quiet as a field mouse. As per normal, I remember my parents took me to school, and this is when I was introduced to my very first school teacher. I remember her vividly, and her face. You don't forget a beast of a Karen when you see one. And as you would imagine, things started out normal, and Miss Karen kept a nice act up until my parents left. Her charming face turned to a stern look, and she would constantly sneer at any student that looked at her funny. Suddenly, her attention was fixated upon me because I was a rather quiet kid back then. This was merely because meeting new people would honestly scare me. In her mind, she must have concluded some self-delusional thought. She must have assumed that I was some kind of troublemaker, thinking that I was planning to cause her great harm, and that gave her the entitlement to harshly scold and humiliate me in front of the entire class. And this is all because I didn't speak up due to being nervous. For the start of the year, she would constantly belittle me and send me to the corner of the classroom because I spoke in a soft voice when she would ask me a question in class. To make matters worse, as I mentioned before, she encouraged some of the other students to bully me, and she would actually scold me if I would fight back and try and stand up for myself towards these bullies. My parents were also aware about the situation because a few of the times, I remember running home after school crying to my parents about Miss Karen's antics. Now, the bullying only increased when my dad confronted my teacher about her mistreating me in class and for punishing me for literally no reason. I was able to be free from this teacher after after I moved on to the second grade, but by that time the damage had already been done. One Karen teacher managed to crush my gentle spirit back when I was a kid. She made me feel less than a human being. For years I thought of myself as nothing, a useless piece of trash and someone that should never be seen or heard. This level of emotion followed me all through grade school to eventually high school. After graduating high school, I managed to escape those thoughts when I got into college. I honestly don't know what happened to Miss Karen, but all I can say now is that Hades is missing one demon, and I hope they get her back when she finally kicks the bucket. You would probably think that I'm being petty, all because I'm still holding a grudge against this teacher, even now as an adult. But because of her treatment and the awful things that she inflicted upon me back in my childhood, this has caused me to really have depressive episodes, as well as violent behavior as I grew up, especially when I was in high school. There were some dark times in my life where I thought that I was not going to make it out onto the other side. So that is why I hope Miss Karen rots in the lake of fire in Hades one day, and I truly hope that she burns. That is so awful to have a teacher like that. They literally just picked on you because you were quiet. It wasn't because you did anything or said anything wrong. It was literally because you were a quiet kid that didn't speak up, and you were just a first grader who was nervous to meet new people. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm gonna cut a 6-year-old a little bit of slack when it comes to being social in front of other people, especially people that they don't know. And you know what? I also really sympathize with the original poster because they didn't find any resolution towards this story. And I think that just goes to show you that some people just suck, and unfortunately, you kind of just have to deal with it. Sure, you wish you could have that moment where you get back at them, where you say that one thing you've always wanted to say to them, where you can fully get back at them and you can show them exactly why they were so awful. But in my own experience, especially as an adult where I've ran into people like this still, it honestly just doesn't work like that. Most of the time, you move on with your life and you're able to get your revenge by being a better person than those idiots. Because honestly, that's all you have sometimes. But truly, with all things considered, I'm so sorry to the original poster for the garbage they had to put up with. And hopefully, now that you're an adult, you're able to move forward without thinking about that stupid entitled Karen. Am I the jerk for skipping my stepdaughter's wedding after she treated me like garbage for several years? Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background, my stepdaughter has always been daddy's little princess. Her wedding is approaching and she's turned into bridezilla, expecting everyone to cater to her whims. She insisted on a lavish affair, and I'm expected to play the role of the loving stepmom. But here's the kicker. She never accepted me into the family and always treated me like an outsider. So after years of enduring her subtle jabs and snide comments, I have finally had enough. I told my husband that I won't be attending the wedding. Why should I pretend to be happy for her when she never showed me any respect? Now, my husband and his entire family are furious with me, claiming that I'm ruining her special day. Now, her disrespectful behavior hasn't always been overt, but manifested in subtle yet hurtful ways. She consistently excluded me from family discussions and events, making it very clear that I wasn't considered an important part of the family. Rare acknowledgments were often accompanied by dismissive comments or condescending tones. On various occasions, she compared me unfavorably to her biological mother, emphasizing that my husband was happier when he was with her. These accumulated instances of disrespect made it challenging to connect and contributed to my decision to not attend her wedding. My husband, who invited me to the wedding, hasn't been the best at managing the dynamic between his daughter and me. He often downplayed her disrespectful behavior, urging me to let it slide for the sake of family harmony. This lack of acknowledgement and support added to the strain on our relationship. The wedding became a breaking point, as he expected me to play the supportive stepmother despite the years of absolute disrespect. It's a complex situation, and I'm grappling with how poorly it's been handled on multiple fronts. So am I the jerk for standing up for myself and refusing to play the role of the supportive stepmom after years of being treated like an afterthought? Honestly, I can understand where you're coming from, and I can see entirely that your stepdaughter has treated you like garbage for several years. From the subtle jabs to all the disrespectful behavior, it really is awful the way she's been treating you. But with all that in mind, in my opinion, I think it would be a mistake to not try and be there at the wedding. Don't get me wrong, your stepdaughter's awful, but in my opinion, especially based on your family's reaction, it really seems like this is only going to do you more harm than good. And in my opinion, I think this is just not going to benefit you in any kind of way. I think if you wanted to reframe this wedding, you could treat this as a send-off of your stepdaughter, knowing that you will never deal with her in this capacity ever again. This can be the line in the sand, where you basically basically say this is the last time I'm doing anything for her, and she is never gonna play a role in my life ever again. She has her own family, she has her own husband, so farewell, good riddance, and never come back. But it does kind of seem like you're doing this only because it's her wedding, and that this is kind of like the big day for her, and you want to take a small jab at her in some kind of way. At least that's my perspective. Like, I might be wrong here, but it does come off as a little bit petty, especially on such a big day as a wedding. So with all things considered, I really think if I was in your shoes, I would just grit my teeth and bear it and just try to get through the wedding. Then afterwards, you can cut loose and say, you know what, I'm never dealing with her ever again. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Let us know down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. A group of entitled Karens threaten me and a coworker after they get caught red-handed trying to steal from our store. And I've honestly never been more freaked out by an interaction with a customer in my life. Here's what happened. So I finally feel comfortable talking about this, so here we go. 5 Karens decided to threaten me and a coworker with violence because we caught them attempting to steal. I was quite shaken up by the incident, but I am doing a lot better now. For a bit of context, I work at a bargain store in the United Kingdom. Karens are a normal occurrence, but this one is the worst I've ever had. I was on the customer checkouts, serving a lady all her Christmas presents, when I heard a commotion down my line. 5 Karens were shouting at my coworker because we were watching them. They had a trolley with full bags, which did kind of look like they were full of our products. They just kept going on and on to the point where other customers were looking really disturbed. Well, that's right about when I decided to jump in and ask them to leave the store for harassment of a coworker. And let's just say they definitely did not like that very much. They then turned on me, saying they were gonna drag me out to the parking lot and knock me out. I then made the decision to press the panic alarm and call my manager because I felt threatened for my own safety. My manager came over and dealt with them, making the decision to just serve them and get them out. According to her, she had to make that decision fast, as I was a ticking time bomb for a panic attack. And for a bit of context there, I do have an anxiety disorder. I only noticed this when I look back on the CCTV, but one of them got behind me, and that seriously could have been so dangerous. One of the Karens also had a 4-year-old boy with them and had the audacity to say to me that I've traumatized him and that we're discriminating them for being common. But like, seriously? No, you did that yourselves. As soon as these entitled Karens left, I got off the register and had a massive breakdown in the staff room. I know the holiday season means tempers flare, but that was way too much. We discussed it in the back, and the only reason they kicked off was because they were gonna steal and they had a guilty conscience. Now, sadly to say, they had no justice served other than the fact that they left the shop, and they didn't get banned or anything like that. So please, just when you're doing your Christmas shopping, please do not be a jerk. And if someone asks to check your bags, please just comply. I mean, seriously, if you're not guilty, then what in the world do you have to hide? That last comment really is quite annoying because I totally understand where you're coming from, but also I'm not a thief. I'm not someone who goes into these big stores or even these small stores and decides to go shoplifting instead of being honest and just buying the products I want to get. So yeah, it's kind of one of those necessary evils nowadays that has only come up because of actual thieves that ruin it for the rest of us. It's the reason why you probably can't go out of any like major store without them being like, okay, I need to look at your receipt. It's like, really? I literally just bought all of this. Where did I get all of these bags to bag my own items? Like, are you kidding me right now? I know it's all like security theater and stuff like that, but it's really annoying to have to be subjected to that. And it all comes back to Karens like this in this story. These people 100% were gonna try and steal. They were angry and they were aggressive, and I know when I've worked customer service, that was always such a massive red flag for when I was dealing with a customer. If they're hyper aggressive and really angry with you, then honestly, they're probably up to something bad. And that just means I'm gonna be on high alert for whatever they're planning. So truly, to the original poster, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. It's not fair for you to have to be put in that position, especially when you're just trying to do your job. And you've got it right. Working during the holidays, especially during Christmas, is already stressful enough. And the last thing that you need is a group of Karens shouting and threatening you, all because you tried to get them to quiet down. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband is angry with me because I didn't follow the tradition that his family set about when it comes to cooking for Thanksgiving. And now I'm being called a jerk, with my husband claiming that I offended my mother-in-law by not helping out when it comes to cooking Thanksgiving dinner. Here's what happened. happened. So to start things off, I'm a 27-year-old female, and I've been dating my 34-year-old husband since 2018. We got married 3 years into our relationship, and things have been going extremely well. We have spent 4 years of Thanksgivings at my parents' house, and this was the first time we chose to spend it at his parents' house. When we got there, my mother-in-law, her mother, and both my sister-in-laws were in the kitchen all helping each other with the food. Me and my husband went in there and talked for a bit. My mother-in-law then asked me if I would like to help out, and I said, well, not right now. Would it be okay if I came back soon and helped out in a bit? Well, she very nicely said that it was totally fine and told me and my husband to get something to drink and hang out with the men and the kids. It was right then that my husband gave me a nasty look. He said to me, "You're not even going to help?" His mother said they were more than enough people, and she just asked me in case I wanted to help with the cooking, but that they all managed just fine. He grabbed a beer for only himself and went to the living room, and I did the same and followed after. I ended up helping them with setting up everything on the table as I wanted to help out just a bit. His mother did not ask me to do this, and neither did my sister-in-laws. Dinner went extremely well. We talked a lot, and I really like his family. When my husband and I got in the car, he started mumbling really angrily at me. I asked him about 3 times what he was saying before he finally blew up at me. He told me that it is their tradition that the women are in the kitchen cooking, that I disrespected his mom in her own house by acting so entitled. We ended up having an argument about this whole thing, and he has not stopped insisting that his mother was in fact very offended by this. I have not talked to her about this. I mean, she did not tell me anything about being offended either, but I know his mom is a really nice woman who would never want to say anything bad about someone. So I am starting to think that maybe I really disrespected his mom, and she just doesn't have the heart to tell me. So am I the jerk for not following their traditions? I feel like I was a jerk because helping out would not have been that hard, and had I known the outcome, I would have just stayed there and helped out. What should I do? I'm gonna be completely honest and say that I don't think you're the jerk here. First of all, if this is such a big deal, why did your husband not explain this to you before you went to their house? Like, why is he getting mad at you not knowing something that was never explained to you? He's getting upset as if this is somehow like expected, but it's really funny how he's acting like he's never been to any of your Thanksgiving dinners, and I'm assuming that he's seen that this isn't the case. Like, there's no like standard of like, oh, the women have to cook the Thanksgiving dinner. Like, if it seriously was that important, he should have said something from the beginning, just to try and mitigate any kind of negative response. Also, I think your husband's completely full of it. He is acting like his mother is so offended, as if what you did is so irreparable that there's literally no good excuse for it. But seriously, if it's that big of a deal, why were you not told ahead of time? Like, you can't read your husband's mind. Is he being serious right now? Like, how could you possibly know that this is something that your family does? You were not being entitled. I don't think you disrespected his mom. And if anything, this is a really weird gender stereotype that I just don't subscribe to in the slightest. Like, I know when my family has Thanksgiving dinner, both my mom and my dad, as well as my brother-in-laws and sisters, are all involved when it comes to like getting stuff done. Nobody's sitting on the sideline and being like, well, I'm a man, I'm not gonna do any Thanksgiving cooking. It's like, no, if you know what you're doing, then come along and help out. But for you to be expected to do that all because you're a woman, that's like really weird to me. That's like some 1950s stuff that just doesn't stand up today. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your husband is overreacting and blowing this way out of proportion. And if you really want to get to the bottom of this, you could talk to his mom and really just straight up ask her if you offended her in some way without realizing it. Because right now your husband is being unreasonable, and I don't blame you for being confused as well as upset at his behavior. Am I the jerk for leaving Thanksgiving early, all because my partner's creepy brother was also there? Here's what happened. So I'm a 25-year-old female and my partner is 26 years old, and we've been friends for a few years and started dating more seriously earlier this year. This was the first time he's invited me to Thanksgiving. He called it a Friendsgiving when he pitched it. His parents, who I adore, were hosting it, but it was mostly their friends and his family, not really any extended family as he put it. So I guess for whatever reason, I assumed his brother wouldn't be there. I've tried really hard to be nice to his brother. He has always creeped me out with staring and hovering and stuff like that, but he reads as neurodivergent, and I think he has ADHD, but it seems a lot more severe to me. But you know what? I've tried to be nice. Then, last year, my partner asked if his brother could come with us and our friends on our big summer Renaissance Fair road trip, and I then told him how I felt uncomfortable around his brother, and I didn't want him to spoil this trip. Well, my partner tried to assure me that he wouldn't do that, but guess what? He kind of did. did. I felt like I was babysitting a little kid for most of the trip. It was a few weeks after that my partner posted something on Instagram and his brother commented. Now, when I went to check out his Instagram, as one might do, I saw that he had drawn a bunch of sketchy pictures of me while we were on our trip. And I think you understand what I mean by sketchy. And I mean, this was definitely very obviously me without any clothes on. I brought it up to my partner and he mostly seemed to brush it off. I didn't exactly say how uncomfortable it made me, but I also don't feel like I should have had to spell it out to him. I've been pretty clear that I don't want to be around his brother after that. I've had dinner with him and his parents occasionally, but his brother usually isn't even there or stays up in his room. He might come down to get a plate or whatever we're eating and pass by, but he never stays. And that's because I thought my partner conveyed to him that I'm not okay with him being around. So anyways, Friendsgiving is today, and I was honestly having a blast. I got up early and spent all morning making side dishes. I was enjoying spending time with our friends and his parents, and then his brother turns up, with him getting sat at the table with us right next to me. It isn't even that he was there, but that my partner didn't feel inclined to warn me or make sure that we weren't sitting together or anything like that. I feel terrible now, like I kind of overreacted in some kind of way, but I just got up and I left. I went over to his coat and got the keys, and when he asked what I was doing, I might have raised my voice a bit, and I told him he could either spend time with me or his creepy brother, which was maybe not the best thing to do in front of his whole 20-person gathering, and we also drove together, so I kind of left him stranded. But he was at his parents' house with his side of the family, and we do live nearby, so someone probably gave him a ride home. I then went to my sister's house about 40 minutes away, and he hasn't tried to call me or text me. So honestly, did I overreact in this situation? Am I the jerk here? What should I do? This is unbelievable to me. Not because of your reaction, I think you underreacted if anything, but seriously, your partner did nothing to stop his creepy brother from sitting next to you, or even just being around you in the first place. This guy had sketchy pictures of you on his Instagram, ones that he drew himself that definitely looked like you. Like, I don't know about you, but in my opinion, that should have been the end of the story when it comes to you dealing with that guy's brother. Your partner should have confronted his brother and said, "Hey, what is the deal with this? Are you kidding me right now?" And then demanded that he take that down. And it's seriously so awful because you can see so many instances where your partner just straight up ignored you and said, "Nah, it's fine," and then literally did nothing to try and mitigate the situation just to make you more comfortable. That is seriously so disgusting and in my opinion, so uncalled for. This is a massive red flag. This is proof right here that he's gonna push off everything that you say, and he's willing to let it slide that his brother was making creepy pictures about you. So no, you did not overreact, and I don't think you're the jerk. I think the brother in this situation is absolutely a giant weirdo, and you should not be subjected to that creepy guy in the slightest. My girlfriend of 4 years kissed another guy at a concert while she was blackout drunk, and now that I've found out, I'm so confused and angry. I seriously am so stuck and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My girlfriend last Saturday had the opportunity to go to a concert with a friend that she recently met, and this would be the first time that they would hang out together. My girlfriend had also never met the rest of the group, and she had only met this one girl. The plan was for them to leave to the city after 10 o'clock p.m. The concert required a ticket, and they only had one left. It would be my girlfriend, her friend's boyfriend, and the boyfriend's friend. My girlfriend called me and we spoke about it. I said I trusted her, and that I also hope that she has a lot of fun. Now, admittedly, I was nervous about the whole thing, but what's a relationship without a bit of trust, right? Well, sadly, throughout the night, she decided to drink way too much. So much so that she blacked out. She didn't know how or when she got home when she woke up the next day. Long story short, when she was blacked out, she cheated on me. She went off with him to the bar, drank with him, grinded on him, let him hold her and kissed her, and she apparently said that they should just act like they're together tonight. Then, towards the car ride back, she made out with him before puking all over the car when they were driving back home. And this is all in the same car together. Ever since I found this out, I've been numb and I just need some opinions here. I just don't know what to believe. She says she was blackout drunk and couldn't remember everything that happened. I mean, not once has she made me feel insecure in the relationship, so I'm honestly so torn. How is it that you remember everything except for cheating on me? You remember going in, being with your friend, but completely blacked out everything you did to cheat on me? She was very drunk though. I've seen her when she gets really drunk, and I just know that she couldn't have been able to consent either. The friend group needed to walk her up the stairs to her apartment. Apparently they spent more than half an hour trying to find which door was hers, since she was incapable of answering any questions. One side of me is saying that she was vulnerable and someone took advantage of the opportunity and no one was there to even help her out. The other side of me is saying that she's lying and knows exactly what happened and was aware about her cheating on me. I mean, am I being too nice and letting the love I have for her blind my judgment? At the same time, I'm so mad that it happened. And I mean the scenario in general. The fact that someone kissed her and was all over her really turns my stomach. I feel mad and sad and really confused. Everyone has a different opinion on this. One may say she put herself in a position to be that drunk, and these are the consequences of her actions. That when you're drunk, you act on your inhibitions, and you still make those choices even when you're drunk. We don't excuse the actions of a drunk driver, so why should this be any different? They are still choices, and we should still be accountable for them. One may also think that it's dangerous to think like that, to say that maybe it's what she wanted anyways, but that's indicating that she was even in the right mind to consent. I'm just not sure if that's fair either. I've heard stories of those girls who get blackout drunk and did unexplainable things, thus countering the idea that it was some kind of inhibition, but rather just a situation where someone was being taken advantage of. That this idea that alcohol exposes who you are is simply a sentence that is being regurgitated and really only changes who you are and your ability to make decisions. In this case, my girlfriend, I think, really was taken advantage of. But honestly, I really don't know what to believe, and at this point, I don't know what to do. This is a really scary situation because your girlfriend clearly should not be drinking that much. Like, honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would be like, okay, listen, for this relationship to work out, there's no way you can drink like that ever again. You have cheated on me once, and I don't want that to happen again. Like, your girlfriend acted like she was single. She acted like this guy she hooked up with was her boyfriend for the night. And sure, she was drunk, but she made the choice to drink that much. And that, in my opinion, is such a big problem, it's only gonna get in the way of your relationship. So I don't blame you for being upset, and I don't think you're overreacting here. Your girlfriend has a lot of things that she needs to account for, and I really think some serious change needs to happen. Otherwise, this relationship is going to be incredibly hard to keep going. Am I the jerk for not allowing my fiancé to playfully smash a cake in my face at our wedding? Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying I absolutely love my fiancé. We've been together for over 5 years, we own a home together, we have 2 dogs, and we live a happy life. We have had a rocky relationship at times though, and are definitely not perfect. He is the oldest of 2 brothers, and sometimes when we get playful, he will take it just a tad too far, and maybe he'll push me a little too hard, or tickle me when I'm frustrated, stuff like that. As we started planning our wedding, he off the bat talked about how excited he was to put the cake in my face. I was a little apprehensive about this, but he seemed so excited. I mean, I'm not having makeup done professionally, and I figured it was just one moment of the day, so I said sure. Well, as time has gone on, I have seen the TikTok tragedies over cake in the face at weddings, and I began to get a little bit worried. With the way he is, I'm worried that he will take it just a little bit too far. When I started to feel this way, I talked to him and told him I would want to practice beforehand, to which he seemed a little frustrated about, but said sure and that he understood. He promised he wouldn't get it in my hair or on my dress. But really, how can you control that? I have kept trying to get him to practice, and he never wants to. He will do it without the cake, but never wants to with the cake or whipped cream because he doesn't want to get sticky, which is like, wouldn't that be happening to me at the wedding as well? Anyways, every time we do it without the cake, I swear he will touch my hair, to which then I will have to call him out on it. Well, today was Thanksgiving. He started talking about this with my dad, and I mentioned I really didn't want to do it unless we practiced. Once again, he did it without anything, and he ended up touching my hair. So I called him out, and my dad said that we have whipped cream, so why not just try it out? So I said sure, but I also said please be careful. Don't get any in my hair or on my clothes. I showed him where I was okay with it going on my face, and he went to do just that. Well, he put way too much on, and I told him, see, even that was too much. And then he smashed the rest in my face. I guess I moved because it got all over my hair, all over my eyebrows, and some of it on my clothing. I immediately started crying and I ran to the bathroom. He came in and apologized and cleaned me up while he was also saying that he was sorry and that I had moved and that's why he got it on me. He was really nice and cleaned me up, but it just frustrated me. And I said we are absolutely not doing that at the wedding because if he couldn't control himself now, he definitely wouldn't at our wedding. I was upset for like 30 more minutes and he finally said, I understand if you don't want to do it anymore. I just want you to be happy. I said that we will see, but if we do it, we have to practice properly and not at a family holiday. So as of right now though, my answer is a hard no, but I need to know, am I the jerk for the way I reacted? What should I do? Okay, I can't believe you're even considering still doing the cake thing at your wedding. You clearly had a bad reaction to it. He got it on your face and your hair and on your clothes. Like seriously, that's how it's gonna go. It's not gonna be this gentle thing. This is gonna go literally everywhere. And your reaction to a practice run was to start crying and run to the bathroom. So seriously, to the original poster, do you want to run away crying at your wedding? Because I can 100% see this happening at your wedding. Like I really don't think it's gonna matter how many times you both practice this. This is simply not a good idea based on the fact that this really upset you the first time. So why not just cut it out of the ceremony altogether and just avoid it altogether? That in my opinion would be the smartest thing to do, and I think everybody could be happy with this if you just make that decision. Because clearly this upset you, and I would hate for this to happen on your wedding day. My fiance's crazy entitled father is actively trying to ruin our marriage, and after dealing with this for literally over 2 years, I have finally put my foot down and said enough is enough, and now I'm seriously considering not getting married after my fiance refused to set any kind of boundary with his crazy father. Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying that our wedding is in 3 weeks. To make a long story short, his dad has been trying to destroy our marriage from the very beginning and has left no stone unturned trying to do so. It has been a nightmare, an absolute nightmare for me, my family, and my fiance because of this person. He is a clinical narcissist. He's awful, he's a liar, he's crazy manipulative, probably mentally ill, and truly a bad man. Not a single positive trait that I can think of. He bribes clergymen to lie to my fiance, to make up fake scriptures to support his sick desires of splitting us up. His family all agrees with my assessment, and he makes their lives absolutely miserable. He is against our marriage due to his obsession with control and continuously trying to split us up, but it still hasn't worked. But here's where the real issue comes along. My fiance is very much toxically bonded to this man. He used to look up to him as a role model, always says that he would do anything for him, panders to his every manipulative need. This was the first time in my life my fiance did something against his dad's will, so it's the first time he's ever seen things get this bad. The problem is he won't set a single boundary. He allows the man to berate him for hours and hours on the phone, even though they're in different countries. It has literally been 2 years of this. He constantly hears himself get called a traitor, a bad son, a pathetic doormat, so many other things that are just not true. His dad says so many horrible things, and he implies that he'll do awful things to himself if we go through with this wedding, if you know what I mean. And here's the thing, when me and the rest of the family say that he needs to put some distance between himself and his dad, he just says, no, that's my dad. My fiance takes all of this to heart terribly, even though everyone tells him none of it is true and that he's done nothing wrong. I mean, I do not recognize my fiance anymore. He used to be strong and confident and happy, and now he's just miserable. He uses illegal substances. He lies to me. He barely functions as a human being. His only object is pleasing his dad, which all of us knows is impossible because the man is mentally ill and doesn't respond to any kind of reason. I mean, we have all tried in that regard. I brought this to his attention and said that you're destroying our marriage before we even move in together. But he'll respond by saying, oh, but that's my dad. And then he'll refuse to do anything about it. We are not happy anymore. Absolutely everything revolves around that psychopath. I don't know how much more I can take. I can be supportive, but not when he's allowing this to happen. I told him I don't recognize him anymore, and I'm terrified to have our wedding and move in with him because he refuses to set a very reasonable boundary and protect himself and his marriage. He says to me, well, my dad isn't berating you, so it's fine. But I'm like, do you really not see how messed up our marriage is? All because of how much you allow him to berate you? For the record, he has also berated me in the past, but I stayed quiet out of respect for my fiance. It's like talking to a wall. He refuses therapy. His mom and siblings all see this for what it is and encourage him to put some distance. But we always just get the same response. I'm honestly at a loss right now. I feel guilty to leave him after all this, but these are terrifying signs. I cannot help him if he won't help himself, which is what is happening right now. We are currently not speaking to each other because I said either you change something or I'm out of here. What should I do? This is a massive red flag. The dad in this situation absolutely should be out of of your life. And the fact that your fiance can't see that is crazy to me. Like seriously, how can your fiance not see that this is ruining your marriage? Why on earth would he choose his awful dad over his soon-to-be wife? Like this is seriously just not okay, and you do not deserve this in the slightest. Like seriously, if I was in your shoes, and I'm only speaking for myself here, and I knew that my wedding was 3 weeks away, and my fiance was acting like this, there is no way on earth I would ever go forward with a wedding. Like seriously, your fiance is not ready to get married. They are more concerned with their crazy father than they are about preserving your marriage. And that, in my opinion, is a massive red flag, and I definitely think that you deserve a lot better. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My sister and her husband never punish their kids, allowing them to run rampant around anybody's house that they go to, as well as blatantly refusing to listen to anybody. And after dealing with this for so long, I finally had enough and decided to open up and tell her exactly how I feel. And now, as a result, she is calling me a jerk and saying that I shouldn't have talked to her kids in that way. But despite it all, I'm being commended by my family for finally saying exactly what everyone wanted to say for several years now. And I'm now just hoping that my sister will finally get the message. Here's what happened. So I'm an 18-year-old female, and I have an older sister who's 31 years old, who is married with 2 kids. One of the kids is 8 years old and the other is 5. Ever since my niece and nephew were young, they were spoiled silly and would throw a tantrum in order to get what they wanted. My sister, being the oldest in the family, would never say no, and on the off occasion that she did, my niece and nephew would cry and scream until my sister gave in and got them whatever expensive gift they wanted. A few years ago, my sister had gotten them iPads, and ever since, they've been glued to them. And if you took it away or it lost its charge, then they would throw a fit. My niece and nephew have no regard for anyone's feelings and have gotten to a stage where they will outright tell people that you are not my mom and I'm not listening to you. Or they'll say something like, I don't need to do what you tell me to do. This honestly causes my family to be annoyed on several occasions. Now, don't get me wrong, I love them with all of my heart, but the way they speak and act towards family and friends is downright rude, and my sister doesn't punish them for it. She encourages it, saying they're young and we shouldn't get mad at kids. My nephew has a knack for picking on his sister, especially when he has a friend over, which leads to my niece crying and seeking comfort, which is understandable, but she retaliates by acting out. Whenever they visit the house, they will run around and cause a mess while yelling and screaming. They refuse to eat food my parents make if they don't want it, and will talk back to my parents with no hesitation. My niece also has a problem with stealing. If she sees something she likes, she will literally just take it. And on one occasion, I found her in my room looking through my drawers and picking out clothing. And I had a handful of old stuffed teddies, and when I softly explained to her that she couldn't do that, she ran off and my sister got mad at me for punishing her, even though I didn't. It all came to a boiling point when my nephew and niece were jumping around in my younger sister's room and yelling at her. I walked into the room and I asked what was going on, and they looked at me and said, we don't love you, you aren't our mom, which genuinely hurt. So when I told my sister, she said to let them be and that they don't mean it. From the corner of my eye, I saw my niece standing there with a grin on her face, and she just ran off, leaving me very hurt and very angry. Now, I don't know what came over me next, but I let out everything that I had kept bottled up, saying things that my family never dared to say, and finished it by saying, your kids are the devil's spawn, and I suggest you start punishing them for how they act. And then I just left for my room, which is where I'm sitting right now. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update for us. Here's what they had to say. Well, my sister came over this morning to talk to me, but instead of it being a conversation, it was more of her yelling at me for disrespecting her kids. I sat and listened for what felt like hours of screaming, and once she finished, she told me to grow up and that my kids are good kids. When I heard that, it was like a wave of anger washed over me, and I honestly told her that her kids don't respect me, the family, or the house. The family prides themselves on respecting each other, but she has failed to teach them respect and manners, and that I shouldn't open my door to see my niece stealing from me. I apologized for the wording I used to refer to the kids, but also reiterated that if it wasn't going to be me to tell her the truth, then it would be somebody else. My sister then looked at me and said, "You're not a mother, so you can't judge my parenting," which is true, but I had to tell her that even though I'm not a mother, I can't just sit aside and watch my niece and nephew grow up to be disrespectful people. Because if they're willing to be rude and mean towards their own family, then what's gonna happen to them when they enter the real world or go to school every single day? I can't help but worry for my niece and nephew because they are getting worse and I don't want them to just do nothing. And that my sister and her husband need to be held accountable for their actions. I also reminded her that if she was only here to yell at me, then that shows me where the children got their disrespectful attitude from, and I suggest that she try new tactics, like teaching them that stealing is wrong, and to do things like limiting screen time and learning to say no to them. She looked at me with disgust and finally left. The entire family is on my side in this situation and have commended me on telling my sister what they all have been wanting to say, but I feel like my sister will never listen nor change, especially for her children. Yeah, that older sister has clearly been lazy when it comes to raising her kids. Clearly those kids run that house and not the other way around. The kids have learned from an early age that if they scream and cry, they will get whatever they want. And so now that that's an established behavior in their house, they then feel like it's okay to do that at other people's houses. And that is seriously inappropriate. It really doesn't take much to simply say no to your kid and teach them some decent manners growing up. I'm not saying it doesn't take work, don't get me wrong. Of course it's going to take a lot of work to make sure that they're good kids, but I really believe if you put the effort in, they really will start to listen to you and other people around them, because otherwise you're going to end up like this older sister, and that would honestly be awful to deal with on a daily basis. My entitled father is demanding information about me, despite the fact that I cut him off years ago, and now that I finally have moved on from this man, I truly feel happy about my decision, and I really hope I never have to deal with him ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of background, when my brother and I were 4 and 5 years old, my dad threw me, my brother, and our mom out on Christmas after I told my mom about spending time at his girlfriend's house, and she followed up and realized it was true. When I was 7, he disappeared altogether because his girlfriend didn't like my brother and I, and he didn't like paying child support. He came back when we were 12 and 13 years old respectively, and he took my mom to court where he asked for visitation rights. We soon found out it was because his new girlfriend had a kid and she wanted visitations so that his child support would go down or ideally go away. After having to spend time with him, I learned that although he has this weird hatred for people that he considers rich, he himself wants to be a millionaire. When I was 17 years old, I was done with having to deal with him, and I was pretty mad that my mom agreed to sending us to visitations when it was very clear I wanted no part of it, and the judge would give her the option to stop them. The icing on the cake was when I was using my mom's phone one day to get some information, and I saw my dad texting her. I opened their messages, and I saw that he was asking her for school pictures of my brother and I, and he was asking her why I was so stubborn about letting him into my life, or letting him know anything about me. She told him to ask me herself, and agreed to send him pictures, but to not have them anywhere I could see them, because I was pretty scary when I was mad. I called him and ended visitations for myself, and my brother was 16 and not nearly as opinionated as me. As we got older, my brother stayed in touch with him, despite constantly telling me that he's a pathetic loser, that his life is sad, and that he's a waste of time. But with that in mind, I made sure to never let him have any contact with me at all. He would occasionally ask my brother for updates about me, and I made sure that my brother had it down to tell him either that if he wants to know anything about me, he can ask me himself, or that that's classified information, and that he doesn't have the right security clearance to access that knowledge. Dad would then get angry and say something like, "I'm your father and you need to respect me, and if I ask to know anything, I expect to be told what I want to know." There was one instance in particular where my dad and half-brother were messaging my brother back to back, and it was kind of odd. They both asked about me, and my brother told our half-brother he can always text me directly if he really wants to ask me anything. But you know what? He never did. But my dad was persistent on my brother giving him any information on me at all. I told my brother that if he wanted to know what city I moved to so badly and what I was doing, to tell him a city kind of close to me, but still is a ways away, that is home to quite a few celebrities, and that I work a job to support my ability to live there. Knowing that my dad hates rich people and that he would look up the city, I knew this was a surefire way to get him to stop asking anything about me. Well, my brother told him, and sure enough, he acted quite predictably. He was angry, bitter, and jealous, and he even uninvited my brother from the weekly dinners that they apparently had been having. I did end up seeing my dad at my grandmother's funeral 2 2 years ago, and this is because she wanted him there as one of her last wishes, and both my mom and brother warned him to not try and talk to me. He did listen to their warning, but ever since then, my dad has occasionally thrown out that he has baby pictures of mine that were thought to have been destroyed when he threw us out. We were not allowed to take more than what would fit into one backpack each. My brother would ask for them, and now my dad responds to him by saying, "You will be allowed one bad quality picture for every time your brother apologizes to me for shutting me out. One good quality picture for every 10 minutes your brother spends on the phone explaining to me why he felt like he needs to treat me the way he does. And one small album of exact copies you will have to pay to make if you make your brother agree to meet with me in person, apologize to me for his disrespect, and tells me how to stay in contact with him because I should be allowed that access." When my brother told myself and my mom in a group chat, my mom replied by saying that she doesn't need baby pictures that bad. The memories are good enough. And I just said, wow, well, it sucks for you guys. You won't get to see me as a baby. It's been a little while now since my brother mentioned anything to me, but I know they talk since my mom told me recently that my dad texted my brother on my birthday to wish him a happy birthday. My brother's birthday is 3 days before mine, and my dad has never tried to remember how old we are or what day our birthdays are. But honestly, I'm so glad he's not in my life, and I truly hope I never deal with him ever again. Your dad seriously sounds awful. Like he's verbally and emotionally awful, and he's really manipulative. Like this guy clearly only wants you in his life so he can have some semblance of control over your life. Like that's the only motivation this guy has. He's not genuinely interested in what you're doing. He doesn't care about where your life is going or what's going on inside of it. He just wants to know information about you so that he can try and have some kind of wiggle room to ruin your life even more. Like this guy kicked his family out of his house after it got exposed that he was cheating on his wife. Like this guy is a complete loser through and through, and I don't blame you for cutting him off. And you know what? The fact that you're not responding to this guy after all the years of awful behavior he's had towards you and your brother, that alone has got to be driving him nuts. If he's anything like other narcissists that I've met in my own life, I'm willing to assume that you ignoring him is literally just driving him up a wall. Because you know what? He probably wants some kind of reaction. He wants you to get upset at him so he can have more reasons to hate you and your brother. Like this guy is not a good person, and if he really wanted you in his life, he should have cleaned up his act years ago. Because as it stands right now, you don't owe this man a single thing. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would probably react the exact same way. Am I the jerk for not changing my dog's name when I find out that my new neighbor's child has the exact same name? Here's what happened. So I'm the owner of a mixed cattle dog by the name of Charlotte. I live in a lower middle class suburb in the United States. I have lived here for almost a year now, and I let Charlotte out to go potty roughly 6 or so times a day. It's always the same routine. I open the back door, Charlotte runs outside to go to the bathroom and then patrol the yard, and doesn't typically come bounding back to the door until I poke my head out and call her name. Well, about a week or two ago, maybe longer if I didn't notice, new neighbors moved in across my back alley. I had no intentions of interacting with them whatsoever, and I mean like ever. But all of that changed when I was executing the last step of Charlotte's aforementioned potty protocol. I stuck my head out and called her name, but this time, alongside the familiar sounds of my dog galloping up to the porch steps, was an adult human shouting something back at me. They were screaming, "Why are you calling my daughter?" Now, at first, I thought it might just be my new neighbors getting into an argument, until a couple minutes later, I heard pounding on my front door. I opened the door to an angry man about twice my size glaring down at me. He said something like, "Why in the world are you calling my daughter into your house?" And I responded by saying, "Is your daughter's name Charlotte?" And when I said that, he just kind of kept glaring at me. In absence of a response, I followed up by saying, "Dude, Charlotte is my dog's name." This guy then rolled his eyes at me and said that I better change my dog's name because he doesn't want his daughter getting confused and running into my house. I told him that's not gonna happen because not only did my dog have the name first, but we also lived here first. Plus, I don't like strangers making demands of me before even attempting to be polite. What I didn't say, but I really wanted to say, is that teaching his child stranger danger is his responsibility and definitely not mine. Well, this guy then called me stupid and said that a human child obviously has priority over a dog for a name. I then shut the door in his face and stared at him through the peephole for a moment before he eventually walked back to his house. Well, this last potty break, I went out with Charlotte and stayed in the yard with her until she finished her business. But this guy just kind of stood in his yard with his arms crossed crossed and glared at me the entire time. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk in this situation for choosing not to change my dog's name just to please my new neighbor? No, you are not the jerk. This guy sounds crazy. First of all, the odds of that stupid kid having the same name as your dog is literally slim to none. Like, think about it. That's crazy that that actually happened. But also, how can this guy honestly think for a second that you somehow know his daughter's name, even though you've never talked to this guy or his stupid kid ever in your life? Like, this guy just moved in and he's already causing so many problems for you. And he definitely made like a veiled threat against your dog. He literally said, oh, you better change that dog's name. You better do it. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm not doing that. The dog's not going to listen to anything besides the name Charlotte. Trying to change it now would be a nightmare to figure out. And there's no way I would ever want to put up with that. Also, this guy has to be a really bad parent if he thinks his daughter is going to run into your house. For context, his stupid kid is 2 years old, and that really makes me think, why would this guy leave his 2-year-old daughter outside with no adult supervision? This guy basically just admitted that he sucks at being a parent, and he's now expecting the original poster to dance around his incapabilities. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would get cameras like yesterday and set it up all over my house and outside my property. This guy definitely sounds like someone who would try to hurt your dog, and I definitely would make every step necessary to make sure that that never happens. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.